Hey guys, I just got back from this really weird dinner. There was a dude who was like glittering gold, a real big dude with a chariot, and some girl crying about her issues. So I just want to say that tonight there's gonna be total language that is not suitable for audiences. And your ears be advised. Why is the sparkly man coming closer to me with knives? Anyway, we're gonna totally spoil things for like Fate Zero and shit. Cause I'm drunk. So if you like haven't watched Phase Zero, you should totally go watch Phase Zero first. We could totally spoil other things, like especially Glittery Guy. Like he really thinks that like everything belongs to him, including me, which is really weird because I've never met you, Glittering Guy. And like finally, just remember, anything we assholes say tonight is totally us. Doesn't reflect any adult talk as a whole. Now, excuse me. I'm gonna go back to the beer. Because Big Guy brought the good shit tonight. Why is everything melting and on fire? Oh no, am I a Grail War? What?
Hello and welcome to Dub Talk, where a group of heroic spirits once again converge to do battle and talk about English dubs for anime. I'm Archer Jet, and I'm joined tonight by Berserker Megan.
One of the four of us here tonight is naked drinking wine as we record. Which one of us is it? You'll never know.
Caster Roots.
Phil, 7 times Phil.
And Lancer Andy.
Hey yo, what's good everybody? I mean, oh wait, hang on. Ladies, how you doing? So...
I cannot think of any two more unsexy phrases than Lancer Andy.
So, how do you like it when I thrust my lance?
No!
Which one? The one that penetrates any armor? Or the one that damages my right hand?
Whatever gets the job done. Whatever gets the job done. And let's be real, whether it penetrates your armor or whether it works your left hand, you gotta know how to work it yourself.
Work that shaft, Lancer Andy.
Okay, so in case you couldn't tell, we're reuniting to talk about some more Fate. This time, though...
Hey!
Yep, and this time, though, we're turning the clock back to the ye old year of 2011, because apparently any anime outside the last 3 years is ancient according to young people nowadays.
Hey kids,
Hey,
let's watch that old anime Sword Art Online!
Get
God!
off my lawn! I'm trying to watch the goddamn Gurren Lagann!
God, that reminds me of when I saw an image. It's like I remember playing Minecraft during my childhood. It's like, oh god damn it, I'm old.
Meanwhile, Grandpa Hardy in the ground, 6 feet under, rest his soul. His eternal ghost is watching that ancient show, Gunsmith Cats.
Bless it.
Bless his soul. Okay, so we're here to talk about the dub to the much-celebrated prequel of Fate Stay Night, Fate Zero. For the 12 of you who haven't seen Fate Zero by this point...
I'm not one of them anymore!
Ow, okay, jeez.
Fate Zero tells the story of a Holy Grail War occurring in the city of Fumiki. 7 magicians, each summon a warrior of legend known as a heroic spirit. in order to do battle in an attempt to claim the Holy Grail and have their deepest desire granted. One of these mages is a man known as Kiritsuko Emiya, who desires to save the world. But is it truly possible to save all of mankind? And, well, yeah, that's basically the gist of it. I could have come up with a better description.
The answer,
Sorry.
the answer to
The answer may surprise you.
No. No, it cannot.
Yeah.
Grails hate him! What does Kiritsugu Emiya do to make the Grails hate him? Find out by clicking this clickhole article.
God damn it.
Yep.
The series also ends with a man sitting naked on rubble. I'm pretty sure his asshole is very, very mad at him for getting dust up there.
Oh, God.
So, as always, we will start things off with our ADR director and our scriptwriter. Fortunately for tonight, they happen to be one and the same. And both are handled by one Tony Oliver, who, in addition to directing pretty much every Aniplex-produced Fate series at this point, that man has infinite job security.
Look, Fate's not getting any less popular. Let's be real.
Or
here.
horny.
Or
That fake
horny.
money, that fake grand order money.
God damn it.
Show me the money! Here comes the money! I just imagine that Tony Oliver just sits in an office where, like, Saber and Ku just, like, make it rain on Tony Oliver as he wears a Lupin coat. Just, yes, bitch! Shower me in that Fate money!
Oh my God.
Yeah, so in addition to the Fate dubs, he has also worked on such dubs as Dankutsuo, the Count of Monte Cristo, Gargantia on the Arduous Planet, Charlotte, and Kaon. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll be fleeing the country before Megan and Andy come for me.
Wait, what? Wait, what?
I'm not a big fan of Charlotte.
Oh. I mean, Kaon is just, you know what? Fuck you, Sentai. Fuck you. Why are you releasing the nice limited edition box set of one of my most hated shows on my birthday? I thought we were friends.
They're good music girls, Megan!
And they're good psychic girls, Andrew!
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Come on! What has JC Staff let you down before?
It's not even JC Staff, it's PA Works.
What has PA Works ever let you down?
It's called Charlotte.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going on a major tangent, and I'm getting very
Yeah, okay, would you start us off there, Andy?
Okay,
I
so...
keep calling him Andy and I keep giggling.
Okay, so... in regards to the dub and the script, the dub is interesting for Fate Zero. There's a lot of people who are less prevalent in anime nowadays, because this was from a couple of years ago. By the way, this is a Dub Talk Classics, in case the video title wasn't clear enough. This is interesting, because there's a lot of... This is a very exposition-heavy show, and very prevalent in regards to, like, ideologies, thought processes, suffering, drama, and the like. And it's really, really interesting to see how the dialogue is pulled off. I think it's actually really interesting, poignant script, and all the stuff that was done in English works pretty well, even all the magic mumbo-jumbo and the dialogue. This is a show written by Gen Urobuchi, by the way, which you may have figured out already.
Blink twice if you're okay, Gen!
Do you need a hot man?
He's gonna be working on he's been working on puppets for a while. I think he's doing okay.
They're good puppets, Andrew.
Okay. The script is pretty good. As for a lot of performances, there's a couple in here where I could be like, oh, they're okay, or they're alright. But a lot of the cast in this I find pretty stellar. Like, there's a couple of performances that really put themselves out. A lot of the drama, the intricacies, just so many of these people I believe are real people, or they are real personalities, and it was really interesting to see how they bounce off one another, and some of the action dialogue and the freak out cry despair moments there's a lot of different sides to a lot of different actors, and all in all, I'm pretty impressed that, honestly, I feel like this dub still holds up really well, all things considered. And I'm pretty impressed. Good job, Tony. I look forward to covering your next Fate-related work, because we probably will.
We've got 2 more with another 2 on the way.
We're not trapped in here with it. No, I'm not. It's not trapped in here with it.
I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me.
No, here's the thing. Fate's not trapped with us. We're trapped with fate, guys.
Also, I discovered how many times they managed to escape fate very often in the script on the second thing.
I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
Thank you, Bane.
Sips wine.
So, Megan, after you're done getting a taste of your good old wine, would you like to tell us what you thought?
That, for one, all 3 of you owe me at least 1 free shot to your nuts.
Jesus
Fair.
Christ. How is that fair?
Yes. Okay, full disclosure. I have never watched, like, the only Fate show I've actually legitimately sat the whole way through was Apocrypha. We weren't kidding.
We weren't kidding.
I had really... No, like, we weren't kidding that I had never actually watched a Fate show all the way through until that point. They did not give me any warning about any of the stuff that happens within the first 6 or so episodes of this show, which are not limited to some of the following: child murder, child abuse, a dungeon full of worms, child abuse, murder, and just I wanted to kill them all.
In my defense, I watched Shiki blind.
You get out of this fine.
Good.
I also watched Yuki Blind.
Too bad, he's already taken that excuse.
Dang it.
Alright, so...
You know what? Wait, no.
Wait.
No. Jet gets that excuse. Andrew doesn't get it. Andrew gets kicked in the balls twice.
I forgot some of the stuff that happens.
You know what? And I don't want to hit my boyfriend, so Andrew gets hit in the balls 3 times.
I'll watch the Dramatical Murder OVA.
I'm already
Oh, thank you, honey!
Oh, God.
You're the best! Anyway, so I have no experience with the Japanese of this at all, and I know that's really bad for a show that's critiquing dubs, but I will say that I was really floored by a lot of the cast and a lot of the dramatic tension that Tony brings out in the writing. There is one performance in the entire show that I think is just not at the level of everybody else. And it's not a bad performance, it's just not what it needed to be at with the levels of everybody else in this show. Like, as much as there's a lot of really good drama and really good tension, this show also, at one point, has a air battle between a possessed F-15 fighter jet and a mystical flying beetle chariot.
Fate is interesting and likes to experiment with some of its battles.
There was fucking zombie vampires and a corpse full of bees.
Zombie vampires, which I think are technically ghouls. There's a lot of weird stuff in there.
Corpse full of bees is what did it for me. It was what.
Also, a Lovecraftian glub monster.
Ooh.
Why'd you have to describe it as a glub monster?
That's pretty on par. Okay. You okay? Megan?
I'm sorry.
Club, mother!
Okay, Baby Ruth should go while Megan's recovering.
Wait.
Are you done, Megan?
I have to be, I can't!
Okay, getting back in the zone.
This is the
Glub, she says. Glub, he says as he makes love to me. It's the only thing I think of is that picture of Tony Stark with the giant gold.
This may be the fastest we've gone.
Okay.
Tony Oliver did a really great job directing this. I would say between... Oh god, fuck!
Take a breath.
Take a breath.
I'm like snotting out my nose. Because, like, you can cut this all out. When Hurt says club club, the only thing I think of is the Devilman Crybaby incident.
We're not even 15 minutes into this. Okay, we're not even 20 minutes into this recording. This is a new record.
Jesus fucking Christ.
That's not even the worst joke I've got.
Oh, Lord.
Okay.
Oh, God, time in. No, so Tony Oliver did a really good job on crying. Did a really good job bringing out the dramatic tension, and I do really want to commend the writing on Fate Zero. That the show, if I'm right, the show itself takes place, like, in actual show, like, in 1995, right?
Yeah.
I think it's like
That
96-ish.
Mid-90s. So I do want to commend him that he kept the script, at least what I'm going to assume is pretty faithful, but he also kept it faithful to the time of when the show took place. Like, there was no slang from, like, the early 2010s littered in here. Everything came off as, like, this is some stupid shit from the 90s. I mean, Iskandar threatens to fight Bill Clinton.
Which is a beautiful moment.
And Bill Clinton plays Bill Clinton's noble phantasm. Bill Clinton's noble phantasm is playing the saxophone. But that being said, I think I really liked it. There's one performance that really just it's not purveying the character maybe to what I think that the character is doing, but obviously it's still a really good performance. But yeah, Roots, go ahead. I can't believe I fucking date you. I agreed to date you.
Yes, you did.
Club monster, Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not!
No, you're
You're not at all!
You're not
All right.
sorry.
Alright. Getting in the zone. I thought the casting for Fate Zero was really great. The direction was pretty solid. I do have a few nitpicks here and there about the scripts and kind of the pace of the dialogue, but considering though those issues are also kind of prevalent in the Japanese version, like, I can't fault the dub itself. It's just one of those shows where the dialogue just kind of feels a little stilted.
I'd also argue that is in itself an issue with the show. With outside of the English language too, it was always going to be an issue because here's the if I can interject for a second, here's an issue for better or for worse with Ufotable as a studio is that everything looks gorgeous and on model almost the entire time. Right. The problem is to make everything look gorgeous and on model almost all the time, you kind of need to have a lot of scenes that are stationary. And which works for a show like Fate Zero, which is very dialogue intensive and heavy anyways. Sometimes they can hide it easily, like the Dinner of Kings, but sometimes it's just they are just walking around and talking ideologies or something. Man,
that literally reminds me of, like, the first scene with he's literally just walking around the room several times.
The 5 minutes, nearly 5 minutes of just Tokuyomi and Kisei Kotomine circling around Kirei. No. Kirei is the one in the middle. His father is the one that's circling around him with Tokuyomi.
Oh, wait, his name is Kisei?
I think it's Kisei. It's either Kisei or Risei. This is gonna bug me.
I'm pretty sure it's Risei.
Okay, Risei.
Like, it's like that fucking song from the beginning of The Lion King 2. They're just, like, talking about him. That's my lullaby as they, like, just run around him in a circle.
It's basically the lamest rendition of the Morning Report.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, 5 points for actually knowing what that song is.
Okay, do you have anything else to say?
But in any case, like, other than some minor dialogue pacing issues, like, everything was just solid top to bottom. I can't actually find a performance in the show I actually strongly disliked, so, I mean, that's in and of itself a feat, especially considering this was like a 2013-ish dub. Like,
it was like 2012.
2012, 2013, still almost 5 to 6 years.
right.
Roots, when did you buy the first set?
Oh, good point. Thank you for bringing that up. I actually bought this blind.
You madman.
Like,
I'd yell at him, but I've done the same things for, like, other shows. Like, half of my shelf is blind bought shit.
Like, I bought both of the sets at once, too.
What the fuck, honey?
Man, the
Like-
life of a DVD collector is a tragic and strange one.
It's still on my shelf. I pull it out every once in a while.
Just to look at it.
Just to look at it. Occasionally take a picture of it in, like, nice lighting. But in any case, I really like the direction and the writing on the dub. There we go.
Okay.
Fate Zero under the cover.
Dang it. Okay, so it's always kind of interesting talking about Tony Oliver because my opinion of him as a director has really changed a lot over the years. Like Christopher Bevan, he's gone from someone who I was kind of like in the beginning to someone who I feel is generally reliable. And I feel like it mostly has to do with how his style has kind of evolved. These days he's gotten like pretty good at doing high energy stuff like Star Wars Crusaders or Hunter x Hunter or just like better shonen stuff. But a lot of his older dubs have a very like kind of stage theatery tone to them, and that was something he actually aimed for by his own admission. As someone who kind of prefers a more naturalistic tone when it comes to voice acting, that approach was often kind of a little bit hit or miss for me. But Fate Zero was definitely a case where that mostly worked in his favor because when you get right down to it, Fate Zero is pretty much the equivalent of watching a Shakespearean play, but in anime form.
Except for one character's entire arc can just be described as gay spring awakening.
Jet, I'm kind of glad you brought that up, because that actually kind of explains the sort of the strange pacing of the dialogue.
Everything is
out
like a
it's on
sonnet,
the
almost,
stage.
you'd think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually kind
Yeah.
of changes the way I see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the show itself features an ensemble of characters that feel like they're constantly competing for stage presence. And that's highly reflected like the overall tone of the dub, where it feels the actors are just like constantly vying for your attention. And this approach works better with some performances than in others, but it all comes together for a really solid production. I don't have as much to say about the script, but it certainly could have been easy to make Urobuchi's prose work in English. But Tony Oliver certainly pulled it off pretty effectively, and it matches the tone of his direction very well. All in all, this isn't my favorite of his Fate dubs, because I think he's gotten more or less better with each one of them. But it's definitely solid, and I can understand why this dub was so well regarded in its heyday.
And honestly, I still feel it holds up, yeah.
Yeah, no, like it was really actually like I actually liked it a little bit more than Apocrypha, so not like I like the show better, but I also I enjoy the dub a little bit more. Though I will say one thing, I would much rather, as a director, have to pull apart Urobuchi's writing than to have to pull apart like a Nisi Onsen show.
Oh,
that's
God.
Ooh.
Nobody's even tried yet, unless...
Junie Tyson.
Does that count?
Yeah,
Yes!
it counts.
I guess that counts.
Oh, wait, no, Madaka Box, okay.
Well, my Nick Box never got to like the really niche ocean stuff in that manga because the anime only covered like maybe one or two arcs.
Thanks,
But no,
Skynex.
Junie Tyson's count. Junie Tyson counts.
Fair. Okay.
Okay, and with that, it's time to move on to our first section.
We're gonna call this...
Fuck these characters!
We're gonna call this team Edgelord.
Yep. So first on our list, we have our caster, Gilgamesh, his master, Uryu Ryunosuke, who is a serial killer that targets children, and our assassin, Hassan Sama, because I really couldn't find anyone else to put in. Sorry. So before we get to who plays these three, Roots and Ender are going to give us a little bit of history on these servants. So, Root...
I'll go first. Oh, you want to go with Roots first?
It doesn't really matter.
Honestly, Hassan's gonna be quick simply because of the fact that, like, it's very, very weird to talk about Hassan
Yeah, I've got like a paragraph, so if you want to go first.
Okay, so Hassan is a very strange character to talk about, just because Hassan seems to be both, like, the leader of a group, as well as also the group itself. Because Hassan Sabad is the leader of a group of Nizari Ismailites, and the founder of an order known as the Assassins, who, in Fate, are assassins. It's strange to talk about how this relates to the character in Fate, because it seems like, in part, it is both the group and the members of the organization of Hassan, as well as individual members, but there also could be parts of his personality. This one was very strange to try and figure out, especially in regards to Fate lore, because there's different versions of this version of Assassin. Sometimes it's individual, sometimes in the groups. But in regards to Fate Zero, this is specifically about the group of assassins, which are all kind of... The servant is basically having like a giant package deal together.
Okay, Roots?
So the caster in Fate Zero is Gilgamesh. In life, he was a comrade in arms with Joan of Arc in the 15th century. The two were among many military leaders who fought the British at the Siege of Orleans. After returning, he retired from the military and sort of decided to dabble in the occult. And among this dabbling in the occult, he decided to murder children.
As you do.
As you do. It's like all the satanic panic movies of the 80s. You draw a witch's circle once, and then you murdering children.
Look, you take a look at the Necronomicon once, and you decide, hey, let's kill children.
Necronomicon, not even once.
Not even once.
Now, historical accounts of Gilderay's murder spree vary from person to person. It's been said that he's killed somewhere between 80 and 600 children.
Jesus Christ!
Okay, so not far off.
And he ultimately confessed to his crimes, where he was executed by hanging and burning.
Boy.
They threw the book at him.
Man, there was not enough books in the world.
So in terms of Fate lore, Gilderoy was also very much in love with Joan of Arc. And his motivations throughout the course of Fate Zero are him basically attempting to use the occult alchemy and magic he learned in life to attempt to resurrect her.
He also was kind of, when Fate Zero happens, he mistakes Saber as Joan of Arc, which...
Okay,
right.
Calm down, Pat from,
Well, that's...
Super Best Friends.
Okay, Super Best Friend...
Is that Joan of Arc?
Okay, let me explain that.
Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
Fate from Super Best Friends Play did a video, because there is a Fate fighting game based off the Fate Stay Night game, and the funniest thing is when they first show Saber, Pat says, "Is that Joan of Arc?" And I immediately thought of Caster.
Is this a pigeon?
I immediately thought of Caster doing "Is this Joan of Arc?" Which, when you think about it,
Somebody did the Photoshop too.
Oh, hang on. I got the Photoshop too, but yeah. Point being, he mistakes Saber as Joan of Arc, which becomes a big plot point. Before it turns out, basically, this is before the Saber face became a meme, by the way.
Yeah.
Saber
says
says
he gets mad about it when he finally puts two and two together, and like his noble phantasm and glub glub.
No, glub, please, Jet. Who plays them?
Okay, so playing Gilderoy, we have one Dan Warren, who you would know as Byakuya Kusuke from Bleach.
Wait,
Igor, what? Byakuya Kusuke from Bleach, Rukia's older brother.
Oh no, I know who that is, but what?
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah, okay, Igor from Persona 3 and Persona 4, and Rudolph von Stroheim from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure because Germany had the greatest medical science in the world!
What a varied... Wow, yeah. Okay, I forgot he was Igor, but that makes a lot of fucking sense.
Yeah. Ryunosuke is played by one Johnny Youngbosh, who you would know as Vastus MP in Trigun, Renton Thurston in Eureka 7, Kiba from Wolf's Raid, and a bajillion other things because this guy has been in practically everything.
Let's also talk about the fact that he is Toru Adachi from Persona 4 for no reason at all. Let's move on.
Yeah. And playing Assassin, we actually have several actors, including Patrick Seitz, Karen Strassman, and Vic Mignogna.
Because they're a collective.
Yeah, Patrick Seitz, you would know as for such roles as Dio Brando from JoJo's Bizarre
Roll
Adventure.
Walla!
And Ubogan from Hunter x Hunter, Vic Mignogna, you would know for such work as Broly for the Dragon Ball franchise, and Edward Elric from Fullmetal Alchemist. So, Andrew, would you like to start us off?
Okay, the Assassins I'll be quick about because it's basically you hear Patrick and Karen talk a couple of times and they're cool, edgy, and menacing, and that's sort of what they got going for them. The biggest mistake they make is laughing at Ryder and denying his invitation for a drink because they get bodied hard.
You never turn down a big guy in his booze.
You never turn him down. Never, ever. Now, Ryunosuke is really interesting because, like I said, he sounds exactly like Adachi. And I'm just going to put a little disclaimer right here. This part is spoilers for Persona 4. Toru Adachi and Ryunosuke Uryu may as well be the goddamn same character. The only difference being that Ryunosuke is like the evolution of Toru Adachi. Because Toru Adachi's whole thing is, I'm bored, I hate society, let's kill women. Now, Ryunosuke's whole deal is, I'm bored, I hate society, let's kill children.
And women!
Does he kill women?
Yeah, he kills, like, the first...
Everything.
Like, he kills the family of the first kid when he summons, Gilderai.
Okay, he kills everybody, but he has a very strong preference for children.
Well, my thing is, does he have a strong preference for children himself, or does he have a strong preference for children because Castor asks him to?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that is really hard to
That's
say,
a really good question. I didn't think of that.
Probably a little bit of both, I would want to say.
But, okay. But here's something I really want to talk about that I picked up on my rewatch that's fascinating to me. Ryunosuke talks with the mannerisms of a child, which is actually kind of fascinating and makes him more believable as a fucked up serial killer. Ooh. Is that he himself feels much more stilted and childish, because he's always talking about how everything is going on is going to be so cool, or he's talking in very simple words. He's not like, he never curses. He never really curses or swears or anything like that. He's just like, aw man, that sucks, or ah, that hurts, or something like that. It's like, or that's going to be so cool, this is going to be so awesome, I love it. He speaks like a stilted child, which is actually a lot more unnerving for it. It makes him much more authentic, and I think that's actually pretty impressive. As for Dan Warren, dude, he is so goddamn awkward and strange and creepy. He's so creepy. Everything about his lines, the way he delivers them, makes me like want to rip my skin off. It's like, ugh, I feel like very uncomfortable, and it's amazing when he does the freakouts, when he does the dramatic things, and when he does that really interesting speech in regards to like sacrificing people and what God wants, which we'll discuss more. I think Megan will talk more about that, but all I can say is Dan Warren does a stellar job at making Gilderai, aka Castor, super creepy, weird, and unnerving, and I'm very impressed. And as well as just the fact that Johnny himself sounds like a stilted child serial killer, and he's so creepy and strange, and I really respect that.
Okay, Megan.
I'll be really quick about Assassin. They didn't really stand out to me, just like Assassin in the show. I could definitely tell Patrick and Karen. I really couldn't tell Vic at all. It's not a bad performance. It's just what it needs to be. They are a collective. They are for the greater good of Kyrie Kotomine?
Kotomine.
Yeah, and also don't ever deny Ryder his drink, you fuckbags. Oh boy, Castor and Uryu. I wanna spend a little bit more time on Uryu, actually. Dan Warren as Castor, I'm not super familiar with him outside of, like, Bleach, but it's been a while, and I would like to purge the memory of Bleach from my head.
What's Bleach?
But, exactly.
You
could
it to
say
whiten your clothes.
You could say I possibly bleached it from my memories!
Nah, fuck Bleach. Please continue.
So when Jet said he was older asshole, it's also me. Ha ha ha. It's really funny because Ichigo and Byakuya are a team.
No, God.
No offense, Uryu kind of looks like Ichigo if Ichigo, like, fell upon, like, hard, cracky times. But no, Castor...
I'm mad that you brought this to my attention.
That's a really good connection.
And man, it also gets worse if you consider it's like the Persona 4 protagonist, or the Persona or Adachi and Igor team up to commit murder.
Yeah.
Man.
God.
But no, one of the things.
I'm sorry.
One of the things I really liked about Castor was that he had this sense of, like, awkward sexual predator about him. Like, I don't know how to not describe him as other than somebody who deserves to be on a neighborhood watch list.
That's fair.
Yeah, man.
All things considered.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, I looked into some information last night. Apparently, like, when Waver and Ryder find the pile, it's so much worse than what they applied on television. Like, they actually had to tone it down for TV.
Yeah, there's a couple things that had to be toned down, like, from light novel to TV.
People were made, children and people were made into furniture while still being alive.
Oh.
Booch, buddy, are you okay?
Wow.
Just, I've got my little Timmy armchair.
Please, let us not.
I'm not gonna make any jokes about that. But one of the scenes I think that really sold me on Castor being an absolute terror is when they're in the Einsberg woods in Fuyuki, and he's got the little kids, and he's like, "No, we're gonna all play hide and seek," and you're like, "No, the fuck we ain't."
No,
the hell we are. Run. And then he just grabs one and squeezes that kid's head like it's a ripe melon, and then throws him. And I was just like, I think that's the point where I was literally like, "Fuck all you guys" in the chat.
Yeah, that's like, fair.
Man, I think to be fair, like, it's pretty obvious from his first scene where he's bad news.
Yeah, like, no, he likes his tentacle maul as a child.
No. The worst thing is that at first it seems like he's reassuring the child, like he's going to let him go. The child literally almost makes it out, and then
just
it's so dirty. It's
glub. But there's just this weird sense of, like, he sounds like such a nice, slightly off drunk uncle that you never want to see again in your life. And then there's eternal child Uryu, who, by the way, I love Johnny's performance when Uryu dies.
Yeah.
Where he's like, "Oh, I wanted to see my own guts this whole time." And he's just, like, having, like, it's like a little kid seeing himself scrape his knee for the first time.
Oh god, yeah.
Except for he's literally just bleeding out, and then he gets shot in the head. And I think what really sells it is just the blood-curdling scream of some random Walla girl right next to him, where it's like, ah! But just also that weird conversation about God.
Yeah.
Man, this show goes places.
It was so weird to hear from Warren's perspective, a guy who goes from one end of the spectrum thinking about God to the fucking other in about 5 minutes.
I think it's just...
And how Uryu is just like... You know how, like, when little kids make up shit?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just how passionate and, like, little kid fervor Johnny Bosch brings to this? Which is so weird because it's Johnny Bosch!
That's what makes it so interesting to me.
Interesting. And, like, he does have a little kid voice. Like, we're gonna get to hear it in High Speed, but Renten, I think, is a little kid voice for Johnny Bosch. It's that spirit of Renten in the body of a grown man who is also a serial killer.
Yeah.
And it's fucking wild. And, like, literally, I feel like in any other show, like, if these two characters were villains, they would be, like, the standout performance in the show.
And they're not even hot shit.
They're not even... Yeah, they're, like, not even hot shit in this show.
They're, like, the first core antagonists.
Like, they are literally the extras.
Yeah! And their performances are that good! Like, in any other show, like, legitimately, they would be, like, two of the big standouts in a lesser production. But in here, they're just literally just another cog in the machine. And that's terrifying.
Yeah.
I think that it's the difference is that they are less grandiose because they are uncontrollable chaos. Therefore, they are seen as lesser. It's the ones that work to control it that are scarier. More of that to come.
Yeah, like, no, they're absolutely terrifying, but they are, like, they do some pretty awful things, but in the grand scheme of things, holy shit show. Again, buddy, blink twice if you need help.
Okay, right.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep Assassin, like Megan, I'm gonna keep Assassin kind of short. Like, they're not really designed to stand out, like, at all. So, I really don't have much to say about Patrick, Karen, or Vic. They're there, they take their orders, and then they get taken out one by one. Like, that's pretty much the
They just kind of get unceremoniously axed.
Like, they're all, like, bodied. And that ends up being motivation for later on, but... Yeah, like, they're good, don't get me wrong, but... They just don't have much of a role to play in the,
They are there to lurk in the shadows and basically give Kotomine stalking ammo.
Right. Oh, boy, Caster. Like, I just love how Dan Warren just kind of hams it to 11. Like, every ounce of scenery that he's next to is just, it all has, like, bite marks on it. Like, he is just the most unrepentant bastard. Like, and it feels like Darren Warren had a lot of fun with the role, all things considered. I mean, if you're gonna play, like, a serial child murderer, you might as well have a good time with it. Like, you know what I mean?
I've never been a serial child murderer, so I would not know.
I would hope not. Otherwise, we would have to end this episode very early.
Yep.
I'm not a child murderer, but I play one on TV.
Roots, if you were an actual, for real, serial child murderer, I would actually kill you.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
There would be no mercy.
There would be no mercy.
But no.
First of all, I would actually probably cut off your dick first. And then kill the rest of you.
But Dan Warren just plays us with such a charisma and vigor that just makes Gilderoy just even scarier than he has any right to be. And, like, especially when he figures out that, like, Saber is not Joan of Arc, and he freaks out. Like, that is just,
He is a lanky, tall, very uncomfortable man with gecko eyes, and God, he's scared.
Yeah, what the fuck is up with this design? Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like, it's actually kind of interesting, because in Apocrypha, like, they show him normal.
Yeah, he has, like, a standard design there. Because, look, here's the thing. When you go crazy, you don't always look crazy. Like, he looked like a person at one point.
Just, I wonder if Ryunosuke's, like... Because I don't think he actually read the spell correct.
That's a good point.
And I'm wondering if it's because he read the spell all wonky.
That he turned out wonky? Ooh, that's possible.
Yes!
And yeah...
Damn it, you cooked your brownies for 10 minutes too long!
I mean, I'll eat it, but it's burnt.
That sounds...
Honey!
That sounds like something
Honey!
Castor would say. Look, I'll eat it, but it's burnt.
Honey, I know we cooked a whole fish with its eyes, but why are they looking in two different directions?
God damn it. Speaking of Ryunosuke, what did you think of Ryunosuke?
Yeah, can I just say that I really love Johnny Young Bosch playing villains. Like...
Singular villain.
Well, you know, he's...
Whenever Johnny gets to be a bad boy, basically.
I mean, I guess in Durara he was more of an asshole than a villain, but...
He's a big asshole in that.
But I just... like, I like that so much, because you get to see, like, little nuances in his performance that you don't get to normally. And especially, like... I didn't even think of it when I was rewatching it, but when Andrew brought up that he sort of acts like a child, like, that just makes him even eerier, and then he, like, his whole death scene, too. It's just, yeah, like, Johnny Young Bosch is a really good actor, and, like, I do kind of wish he gets to play that sort of villainous character more often. And so yeah, that's my piece.
Okay. Alright, so I don't have much to say about Assassin, or the Assassins, as it were. But Vic, Patrick, and Karen all more or less did what they needed to do, and they didn't really distract from anything else that was going on, which mostly speaks to how well they did, because sometimes working well in the background is important too, and sometimes that's what you have to do, and they were really good at that. And Assassin is literally supposed to be in the background, so that works out. As for Castor, back when I watched this dub in 2012, I was only really familiar with Dan Ward for two things. One was Byakuya, because I watched the Bleach dub kind of on and off back then, and Igor. And despite how shady Igor might look, Igor himself is a very, very, very nice man. He goes out of his way to save the world on several occasions. Do not shame Igor.
I mean, he does.
Igor also has a bitchin' ride. Cruising around in my automobile.
He does. So needless to say, seeing Dan Ward go full-on evil ham was a bit of a shock. I certainly can't complain, though, because he practically chooses serious caster. Like, pretty much every time he speaks, he more or less steals the show. And he offers a delightful mix of full-quality ham, and also this very just utterly vile tone beneath it all, because, let's face it, Caster is a monster. And I very much appreciate that the show does not mince words about that, or try to make him, well, I guess not sympathetic, but, you know, just try to portray him as anything less than the monster he actually is. Like, so that was very much
they're not pretending he's not a piece of shit, basically.
As an antagonist, he's more of a force of nature than, like, something you're supposed to at least identify on some level with.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Glub glub.
Yep. Okay, and it's a very similar deal with Johnny Young Bosch's Uryu. He delivers a fine mix of villainy in him. And, and I do appreciate that, you guys brought up the whole, like, sounds like a child thing, because I didn't really notice that while I was watching it. But now that you mention it, I do kind of get that was probably what they were going for. And I think it works really well because he does sound very eerie and creepy, and I think that does kind of add to it a lot.
Mm.
And while I didn't find him like quite as entertaining as Kasser, there was definitely a very twisted delightfulness of how he operates. And I especially like the way these two played off of each other, because it really made you feel like Kasser and earlier were a match made in heaven, or rather a match made down below, because these two murder bros are out to have a good time, and it very much sucks to be you if you cross them.
Mm.
Murder bros.
Yes. Anyway, all 5 of these performances were very well done. I don't have anything bad to say about any of them.
2 bros sitting in a corpse pile 5 feet apart because they don't care.
And they're not gay.
Alright, okay, so we got a little depraved there, but now it's time to get classy, because next up we have...
Team NTR!
Team NTR!
NTR!
Alright, settle down, we're getting very aristocratic here, and I'm,
even better for the NTR. Some royals brooking.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Jet. We're not being very faithful to you right now.
No, Alright, and, okay, and, pray for me as I try to pronounce these names correctly. We have Kadif Malloy, Archibald. We have Sola Oi Noida.
Solau.
Oh my god! Let's just call...
Jet.
Okay, no, Solau Oi Nuda Re Sophia Re.
Her name's Salau. That's what you need to know.
Yeah, okay, yes, that's Solau. Like, I did the full name because I had to. And then we have our...
It's like Princess Fuddruckers all over again.
Yes, and then we have our legend for this story, Diarmud, which is weirdly the easiest name to pronounce out of these.
Diarmud u Dubin. You cut it off at the Diarmud. It's Diarmud u Dubine.
So did Diarmud in this show. He got cut off.
Yep,
God damn it.
Yep, so Kadif is a smug aristocrat who believes that bloodline determines her worth as a mage, while Salau is his wife who claims to support him, but really just wants to get pierced by Diarmud's lance, if you know what I mean.
I mean, to be fair, don't we all?
If you know what I mean there, buddy.
Okay, so...
I mean, there are people on this episode who admitted to wanting to fuck a blue space Nazi. I'm not naming names, but...
Oh, God. Yamato 2199.
Yep, so as for Diarmud, Andrew, would you mind giving us a story?
Okay, so when it comes to Diarmud, the main thing is that he is from Irish mythology. He's the son of Dawn and one of the Fianna in the Féin cycle of the Irish myth. There's 3 parts to Diarmud's story that are important. It's the mole, the girl, and the boar. Let's start with the mole. Diarmud was famous for his beauty and for his love spot, which made him irresistible to women. Basically, when he's hunting one night, he met a woman who was the personification of youth. After sleeping with him, she put a magic love spot on his forehead that caused any woman who looked at him to fall in love. Then we get to the story of the woman. And when it comes to the woman, it's basically more or less that... Here, alright, let me find my notes. Basically, the whole thing with the mole leads him to trouble with an encounter with Granny. How do you say it? Granny? Granny. I think it's Granny, the bride of Fionn Mac Cumhale. Granny having... Oh, grow up.
Cumhale.
Okay. Granny. Grain. Is it Gran? Names are weird. Granny, having fallen in love with Diarmud at her wedding party, placed a gaze upon him to run away with her. It has been said that even while at large, Diarmud stuck up to his fidelity to Fionn and did not lay a finger on her. They were pursued relentlessly by Fionn, but after much blood was shed, he decided to recognize their marriage, granted Diarmud a proper title and land, and welcomed them back as subject. Basically, the whole thing about Diarmud is that they wanted to be together and they fell in love, but he still respected the fact that she was somebody else's wife and did not lay a finger on her. until they were recognized, brought back, and properly wed. Now we get to the boar. Here's how this one starts. Diarmuid's father, Don, was a warrior of the Fianna. At a dinner party, Don was jealous of the attention given to his son of Agnes's steward, so he killed the steward's son when no one was looking. Agnes resurrected the steward's son in the form of a boar, but the steward required Fionn to find out the truth and, upon learning the truth, put a curse upon Diarmuid. He was to be killed by the boar someday. Now, that leads us to later on, after this is sometime after he's been wed with Granny, and he's gotten on better terms with Fionn, the guy originally set to marry her. Sometime later, when he's hunting with him, Diarmuid is fatally injured by that very demon boar, the reincarnation of that half-brother that his father killed. Fionn, who had the ability to transform spring water into a powerful healing agent, was with him, so Diarmuid wasn't afraid to die. Fionn only needed to walk a few steps to the nearby spring, but his jealousy and hatred of Diarmuid was still in him. He spilled the water twice, and by the third time he went to scoop it, Diarmuid had already died to his wound.
Wow, getting done dirty even in mythology.
Wow, fuck this guy.
Even in mythology, even though he was recognized and properly wed, when he had the opportunity to let him die, that jealousy was still there. So even in his own myth, he's laying there dying. And at the start of episode 9, he is laying there dying because of that. And I thought that was really interesting. All right.
Okay.
I have one more note that will come up later in a relevant discussion, so remind me about that.
Okay, so playing Kadif, we have one Doug Erholtz, who you would know as TK from Digimon Adventure 02, Akihiro Artland from Mobile Suit Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans, and Asuma Sarutobi from Naruto. For Salao, we have Karen Strassman, who you would know as Callan Stotfield from Code Geass, Nia Fortner from Monster, and Nadeko Tojima from Persona 4 the Animation, because every day is great.
At your Juness.
Okay.
I like how we all just knew to do that.
Yeah. And lastly, for Diarmuid, we have Grant George, who you would know as Knight Rikuo from Nero Rise of the Yokai Clan, Gen Shishio from Kakaishi, and because it's relevant to tonight's discussion, Gilgamesh from the 2016 version of Fate Stay Night and the Unlimited Blade Works movie.
Yeah! Wow! Ain't that something?
Yes, it is.
Yep.
That's really interesting. I didn't remember that he was Gilgamesh in that because I never watched that, but that's funny. Okay, let's start off with Lord El Malloy, because this dude's a piece of shit. He is such he's such a stuck-up little douche, but like I said, Doug Erholtz does a really great job at making that sort of snobby, rich boy magic society man come across, and he really does sound very snobby and great, and just he sounds angry and bitter, but he does a really good job at like sounding like he's on the verge of near death, just coughing and screaming when he's hit with a single bullet that destroys his magic circuits. Like, ooh. This dude...
Rib bullet, not even once.
Rib bullets, not even once. They're ribbed for his pleasure, not yours.
That's a spicy meatball.
That is a hot take right there.
It's funny because...
Ribbed for his pleasure.
Okay, back on track. No, Doug does a whole lot of, like, crazy, like, screaming when it comes to some of the more brutal stuff that happens to his character, and he pulls that off fantastically. Karen Strassman is... She plays the part of the strong, silent wife who eventually succumbs to her urges and gets a little bit crazy. And, yeah, she kind of goes a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. She breaks his fingers until he...
Castor wasn't the only one causing a flood in Fuyuki.
Are you proud of yourself?
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Caster and Kiritsugu, but more on that later. Anyways.
Oh!
I'm not sorry. Anyways, but she sounds really good, and she sounds noticeably, like, frustrated and, like, angry when Diarmuid is rejecting her. And also, when she freaks out about her arm getting sliced off.
No, it wasn't sliced off. That shit was shot off.
No, okay, no. It was cleaved off, and then it was shot. There's a sequence.
I remember I just started screaming in the chat at that point.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck?
That's kind of what happens in Fate. But yeah, no, Karen Strassman does a really good job. These two get done dirty, by the way. They're assholes, but even for this show, they get done dirty in a very bad way. But not as bad as Diarmuid. Diarmuid, let's talk about Grant George. Grant George is great, and he sounds goddamn sexy. Like, there's just something about his voice that sounds very gruff and cool, and just, like, he sounds like he would be this kind of person, and it's really interesting. The charisma, the honor, and the death. The death. Oh my god. He is vile. He is angry. The blood spilling from his eyes as he curses everybody's name as they has tarnished the honor of a knight who all he wanted to do was serve. Like, we joke about the Lancer being done dirty in Fate. No Lancer has or ever will be done as dirty as Diarmuid.
I'm gonna hug my little Karna plushie right now.
Anyways... But
shh, it's okay, baby. I'm gonna cover your ears. You don't need to hear about this.
No, but I really, really loved Grant George as Diarmuid, and I thought he was a really, really strong presence as his character, even in his final moments.
Shh, shut the fuck up. He's sleeping.
All right, Megan.
Put Karna back on his little thing, his little leash. Man. Oh boy, where to start with Team NTR? Well, nobody was cheating on their acting abilities. That was just stupid. God, where do I start with this? Doug Erholtz as Archibald is just like, he seems like the worst fucking teacher you would ever have in your life. Like, cause that's the thing. He starts off as Waver's teacher at the clock tower, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is just like, he's the type of teacher who you turn in a really well done research paper to, and then he would shit on you in the comments.
Oh, I can totally see him doing that.
God, he so
like,
would.
Is that an Oxford fucking comma I see out of place? -10.
And he'd do it in front of the other students, too.
Students. We're gonna proofread this paper anonymously. That's what I'm thinking about. And he is just such a fucking weasel. And my favorite thing is that he's a weasel trying to wear a top hat and like twirl a little cane, but his little weaselly hands can't grab it properly. Because to me, like, one of the scenes that really gets me is when, after they take out Castor, the church, I guess the Watcher of the Holy Grail War, says, whoever takes out Castor, I will give back a command seal to. And that whole scene's like, well, you know Castor was the one who helped, Lancer took down Castor, and I am his master. And it's like, didn't you pass it off to your wife? No, that bitch didn't do shit. Just give me back the command seal, you know you want to. Thanks, buddy. Bang, bang into the room. I'll tell you what, a bang, bang right over you.
God damn it. Yeah.
But there is, like, I think I really like how Fate Zero really goes out of its way to use the, especially for this and another group of characters we're talking about, how they went and used the mythology stories as a way to set up relationships between master and servant. And it is in this, because obviously Salau is Granny, and...
You're saying that Fion is basically Archibald.
Is Archibald. Because if you think about how they died, Archibald signs a contract with Kiritsugu. It's like, hey, guess what, bitch? I've got your wife, and if you don't fucking take this, if you don't take my offer, I'm gonna kill your wife in front of you. And you're fucked. And so he gives up. So not only is he out of his magic, he's basically out his honor, and then they get just fucking wrecked. It's like, oh, I said I wouldn't kill you. Hey, Maya!
Ugh, yeah.
Tactical sniper.
Tactical sniping. And then Karen Strassman as Salau has this... She's a grown woman that sounds like a horny teenager. And it works, because I thought Salau was a teenager. Just her design was very youthful, and it was kind of actually creepy that she was engaged to Archibald. There were 7 levels of no touch.
Let's be real here. In regards to the magic society and the fact that, like, people can and will, like, put others into a family for power.
And will sell off their children? Oh yeah, hell yeah, I believe
like,
it.
That totally would not surprise me if she was at least a couple years younger.
Yeah, and she was... God, that scene, Karen Strassman got really creepy when she's breaking his fingers.
Ooh, when you hear... Yeah. Like, there's no sound. There's just the snap. Ugh.
And she's so seductive. Like, she's so... Like, in a way, she's also very childish, like Uryu. But she's, like, trying to play the conniving seductress to get what she wants. She's like, we are doing this together, honey! Crack. And then, oh god, Grant George just... Chef's kiss. Well, baby. Diarmuid is actually not the most attractive character to me at the beginning. Like, I was like, okay, why do people want, like, to have his lance in their pants? Lance in the pants, the next game from the Nasu series. Put the lances in the pantses. Kill Ku. When Ku pops out of his pants, you know you've lanced him too hard. Or wait, since you're putting Lance in the pants, shouldn't it be Archer in the pants?
Oh, God.
I've read that shit, and it's... Chef's kiss. There was also a weird doujin where for some reason, like, Salau and Archibald were Waver's parents, and Diarmuid was his brother, and I was just like, what the fuck?
Okay, that's weird. That's weird even for me.
Porn is weird. And for some reason, Waver was a girl.
Wow.
I'm not saying where the rest of this goes.
You stop talking. Please continue.
This has been Dojinshi Theater.
It won't be the last time, let's be honest.
Oh, when we get to,
Yeah.
When we get to the archers. Yeah, baby. No, but Grant George was just so... Not only was he really sexy, he was just also very genuine with everything. Like, you legitimately believe that this man was going to fight Saber, and that he respected Saber. And it's really weird, because a lot of other characters don't really respect Saber very much.
They really don't.
No.
You know what it is?
Like, Diarmuid at first was like, oh great, you're just another sexist prick, fights our Archer, fights Saber. You know what? Deal, buddy, I'm gonna fight you honorably. And I like how his genuineness and his heart was very contrasted to 2 absolutely vile people. And it's why him bleeding from the eyes and cursing them is so effective as a performance. Because if Grant George didn't carry his performance that way, I think that scene loses a lot of value.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a problem that I do have with another actor, where, like, the performance, yeah, it would be good for what the scene is asking for, but it wouldn't have that, like, what makes it special. Like, again, this is another set of characters that if you put it in a lesser production with their performances, they would be the clear standouts. But in here, they're just another layer of really solid framework for the dub. And I loved every second of them.
I think I also just pieced together why Diermude bonds with Saber better than I think the two kings. Because Saber was a knight first before she was a true leader.
Yes.
Like, the whole...
Also, in Legend, he got fucked over by a king, it feels like.
Yeah.
Okay, Roots.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with Grant George's Lancer. It was, it's great. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like, he has the swagger. And, going along with that is, Karen Straussman as Solao, who's taken in by that charisma and swagger, and, like, she plays things, like, halfway between, like, the conniving... I almost want to say the conniving ex. Even though they're technically, like, still in love at the beginning of the show, but, like, she plays it with a combination of, like, the conniving ex and, like, the doting girlfriend. And it's just...
Playing both sides.
Yeah, and it's, like, I really like the performance, especially with the, especially at the end with, you know, all the stuff that goes down with Lancer getting played dirty. Like, I really like the chemistry that both of them had together, and, like, Doug Airholtz as El Malloy, like, God, what a Weasley little shit. I generally, like, I don't associate Doug Airholtz with, like, Weasley characters very much. I mean, he was Geen in Bleach, but, like, other than that, I really... Okay, that's a lie. There are a few others, but, like, when I first saw this show, it was kind of a play against what I was used to hearing him as, because I was used to hearing him as, like, Teenage TK. So now he's, like, this grown-up dude who's just, like, stabbing people.
Scum of the earth.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just really cool. And an interesting little fact, like, he was almost the master of writer. Like, that would have been a really interesting dynamic had that actually gone through. But we'll be getting to writer here in a bit, but, like, I just had to bring that up.
Okay.
Okay. Alright. So with Karen Strasser, since we don't have as much to say on her, well, we haven't had, like, too many opportunities to talk about her on this show. She's generally shown to be a very versatile actor, and she can do a lot of character types really, really well. And she more or less delivered here, and she did a really great job of playing the two sides of Sia Solao, where she tries to keep the appearance of, you know, being a dutiful, supportive wife, while also having that not-so-secret attraction to Lancer. And she transitions between both aspects of her character very seamlessly. And like everyone else was saying, I especially enjoyed her during the scene where Kato first finds out he's been crippled. And the way she manipulates him and, you know, also breaks his limbs is really chilling. And I really appreciate how Karen sells this mix of, like, business-like efficiency. You know, where she's trying to be, like, very matter-of-fact about it. And while at the same time, there's also this very quiet desperation where she really wants to get that command seal so she can have Lancer. And you can just really feel that contrast going into Lao's mind throughout that whole scene, and I thought that was really well done. And speaking of Kato, boy howdy, Doug Airholtz was clearly having a lot of fun hamming it up with this guy. Like Dan Ward, I only really knew Doug Airholtz for like a couple of things at the time. The biggest being probably Azuma from Naruto, and those two characters sound very different, to say the least. As a fun fact, I also, for a very long time, I also used to confuse Doug Airholtz and Sunny Strait, but that's a whole other story there. Anyway, I wasn't really used to hearing that kind of performance from him, but he absolutely nails every ounce of Kato's smug sense of superiority. And he really makes it feel like he's this guy who feels like he knows exactly how the world works. Like it's like like there's the nobles, there's the peasants, and all that. But then everything comes crashing down for him when he discovers that Kiritsugu plays by very, very different rules. And every time
Kiritsugu has rules?
Supposedly. But yeah, pretty much every time Kenneth opened his mouth, I want to see him get served the big old slice of humble pie. And it really speaks to just how well Duggar holds sold that personality. His interactions with Karen Strassman and Grant George were also really effective. And one thing I kind of appreciated about the character is like a little side thing that kind of made him feel a little bit more human is that despite how pompous and arrogant he is, you can tell that deep down Kenneth really did love his wife, which kind of makes his downfall a little bit more tragic. My only complaint is that I feel like story-wise it might have been like kind of cool for Waver to meet him just as like a little aside from how the first episode goes. But then that's also not the point of Waver's character arc, so I get why that didn't really happen. But speaking of getting robbed, boy howdy, Grant George is the R mood. So like I said in the Skip Beat episode, Grant George has a very naturally suave and seductive voice, so him playing a character who suffered through ordeals because he was too charismatic and suave for his own good is a very good fit. And he definitely plays that up very well. And he also does an equally great job of portraying the Armood's sense of honor, and his own dynamic was really great with Saber, and like Megan was saying. And I really like how much you can tell he respects Saber, and I thought, yeah, I just really like that whole bit. But of course, while his honor and charisma are all very good, his crowning scene was definitely during that whole bit with Kenneth's demise, where he quite literally got backstabbed by Kiritsugu, and just the level of rage in that man's voice was like bone-chilling.
Like, in any other show, that would be like probably the worst moment, or like the worst betrayal or ideology breaking moment.
That would be like either A, the turning point, or B, the very end.
That would be the turning point or the very end. This is like this is like the show's top 5 maybe, and it's barely even the start of the second half.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, that whole bit was like really terrifying, but it was just really well done, and I honestly can't praise it enough.
Good job, team. Good job, team NTR.
Yep, all three of these performances were strong. While they're not like quite my favorites in the show, they really do a great job of holding this big ensemble together.
Why do they have to be Team NTR? Why can't they just put Salau in the middle and each one gets a hole?
Let's just say pride gets in the way. And sometimes people are...
What?
Look, here's the thing.
What's the matter, Archibald? Can't get it up because of another man?
Reverse harem.
Yep, and with that, it's time for our next section as we move on to A Tale of Two Houses, because next up we have Tokyomi Tosaka, Karimato,
Yay!
Mato.
I'm sorry.
Oh!
Wow! I think you booed the wrong one, by the way. I couldn't...
No, I booed Tokyomi.
But who'd you yay?
Karia.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. Okay, so Tokyomi is the head of the Tosaka family, who sold one of his daughters, Sakura, out to the Matos, while Karia is an exile from the Nato family, who comes back in order to save Sakura from her cruel fate. Zoken is the head of the Mato family.
And who needs to be hit by a truck.
Yep, and while he aspires to obtain the Grail in order to become immortal, this time around he's mostly just in the game to watch Karia suffer.
That's such a... Oh, by the way, are we talking about Berserker too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Can we just talk about the fact that, like, literally, some way through the point, he just straight up admits, like, you know, I want the Grail, but I kind of...
Watching my idiot asshole son suffer because of me is so much more fun!
It's like, at my age, I need, like, Viagra and, like, 10 different worms. This is doing it for me something fierce.
All the meanwhile, Karia's just filling himself up on creepy crawlers.
Yep.
Do you think he uses one of the worms as a fleshlight?
And I'm going for a bathroom break. Good night, everybody. LBRB.
Okay, and,
I'm so proud of that one!
So to listen to these guys, we have our Berserker, and big spoilers in 3, 2, 1. It's Lancelot, everybody!
By the way, can I bring something up about this?
Let me just go through the legend real quick first. Well, quickly in quotation marks, because I have quite a bit on this one, because Fate Lore is weird. So, Lancelot hails from the legends of King Arthur and was one of his greatest knights. After the death of his father, King Ban of Benwick, Lancelot was carried off by the Lady of the Lake, who raised him to become a perfect and chivalrous knight. When the Lady of the Lake replaced Merlin as King Arthur's advisor, she asked the king to look after Lancelot and for him to be knighted. Upon becoming an official knight, Lancelot became the personal champion of Queen Guinevere, and the three of them became very close. However, one day Lancelot disappeared, and later returned claiming to have seen the Holy Grail. Unfortunately, Lancelot was denied the Grail because, despite being married to his wife Elaine, he secretly desired Guinevere. Jealous of her, Elaine used magic to ensnare Lancelot and tricked him into believing he was sleeping with Guinevere, causing the two of them to bear a son named Galahad. When Lancelot found out he was being deceived, and Elaine killed herself, when Lancelot found out he was being deceived, he fled, and Elaine killed herself, setting into motion events that would eventually lead to the downfall of King Arthur's empire. As for Fate lore, it goes very differently in that. Lancelot's backstory more or less remains the same. However, he also had a very strong desire to help lessen King Arthur's burdens after Sir Tristan left. And Lancelot was very close to Guinevere in that version of the story and had a secret relationship with her, which made his whole finding out that King Arthur was actually a woman all the harsher, as King Arthur's marriage to Guinevere was essentially just a way for her to maintain the illusion that she was a man. But in spite of that, Lancelot held back on fleeing with Guinevere due to his loyalty to Arthur. But when his political enemies found out about the affair, Morgan Le Fay ordered Guinevere to be executed. Lancelot attempted to save her, killing several knights in the process, but failed and fled back to his own domain. In spite of his betrayal, he remained loyal to King Arthur, and upon finding out that the kingdom had eventually fallen, he was driven into despair and madness, causing him to be reborn into the Berserker class as a heroic spirit. And there you go.
Okay, so I want to point something out about this. Is that they don't reveal who Berserker is until, like, literally the last minute of the show. Or, like, one of the last episodes of the show. But if you pay attention to the relationship between Karia and Tokiomi and Tokiomi's wife Aoi, you can figure out who it is, because it's very similar.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed it is.
And I think I said that to somebody, to, like, a couple of you guys who were, like, all, like, holy shit,
I
right.
never pieced it together, but the parallels between Karia, between Karia and Aoi and Lancelot and Guinevere are very interesting. Fun fact I found researching Diermude, because apparently Diermude and Granny's tragic love affair served as the model for the tale of Lancelot and Guinevere.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
There's a fun fact for you.
Yeah, that's cool.
Tragic love, a hidden theme of Fate Zero.
Yes. So anyway,
Funny story
Karimata.
with that, but we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yep. Anyway, that was a mouthful, but anyway, playing Karimata, we have Liam O'Brien, who you would know as Gar of the Desert from Naruto, Nanashi from March and Awakened Romance, and Dr. Kenzo Tenma from Monster. For Lancelot, we have Kyle Hebert, who has been older Gohan in the Dragon Ball franchise, Kiba from Naruto, and Kamina from Gurren Lagann. As for Zoken and Tokiomi, we actually have a couple of very interesting VAs to talk about. Playing Zoken, we have Michael Donovan, who you would actually know for his roles in Canadian voice acting, including Guile from Street Fighter, Sabretooth from X-Men Evolution, and Ryoga Hibiki from Ranma 1/2.
Wow.
Yeah. And playing Tokiomi Tosaka, we have Mark Derison, who you would know as George Josar I from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Roanoa Zolo from the 4Kids version of One Piece. Please direct all of your death threats through @RootsOfJustice. I repeat, that is @RootsOfJustice.
Hey, at least take it to me. Come on.
First of all, One Jet, you're gonna die.
Okay.
Get to the important one.
My face is punchable!
And of course, he is Guts for the 1997 Berserk anime, in which I must now make the following joke and incorporate myself. Rin, my love for you is like a truck. Berserker Dawson!
I think Aoi wants Tokiomi to stuff her like a Thanksgiving turkey.
I'm gonna take the reins on this before this gets any more strange.
Fleshlight, worm, fleshlight, buddy, worm, fleshlight.
See, that gets even worse because when, like, near the end of the show, he basically, Karia, you're still alive. Here's an extra strong bug. This one took Sakura's innocence. I'm like, no!
Yeah, no, it's like, yo, no!
Why would you say it like that? No!
Bad touch, bad touch.
As if throwing a 10-year-old into a basement dungeon full of cockroaches wasn't enough.
Like, that's just...
That shit was like an episode of Hoarders gone wrong.
Okay, so I gotta figure out, where should I start? Zoken is probably the one with the least amount I have to say. Probably because I have not seen Heaven's Field, which I'm told he's much more prominent. That being said, Zoken is a creepy asshole, and he sounds like so, and he looks like so. The fact that it's basically revealed, at this point, I'm not even trying to get the Grail. I want to fuck with Karia, is some douchebaggery on a level of nothing else. But Michael Donovan does a really good job at making Karia sound like an old, skeevy asshole. Aoi Eir is really good at yelling and screaming, as per his repertoire of Dragon Ball Z, and I think he does a really good job with the inhumane-sounding moments in regards to Lancelot / Berserker, as well as, like, in his final moments when he's finally confronting Arturia for real, and it's a really interesting to see him get, like, let go, as well as get legitimately angry. And he does a really good job. Let's see. Now, who should I talk about first? Let's talk about Dad of the Year first. Tokuyomi is charismatic, suave, calculating, and a diabolical man with plans upon plans, with plans to plan, who is undermined by his own hubris that his closest allies are the ones that basically kill him. But Mark Derison sounds really smooth and calm when it comes to Tokuyomi. Like, it's just business as usual. Like, magic is just his life, and this is how he works. And he never thinks or talks like he's doing anything morally bankrupt. This is just what he knows. This is what he was raised. And in his mind, this is what's best for his family and for his children. It is genuinely what he thinks, and he shows no shame or sympathy for it. But God, when he finally gets his comeuppance, it sucks for, like, his family, but it's pretty great hubris. Now Karia. Man, fucking Karia. I don't think there is anybody who is done worse, or who gets it worse, in the entire show, because at least some of the other people who get screwed, they have their moments of joy, they have their happiness. I don't think there is a single moment from the beginning to the end of Fate Zero that is not pure agony for Karia. He wants to save Sakura. He wants to reunite the family. He wants to force himself back into a world he got out of. And the entire time he is being eaten alive. He's grayed his hair. He is being torn apart.
I think he's blind in one eye.
I think he's also blind in one eye. And, like, Liam O'Brien is just... I love Liam O'Brien as an actor, and he is just in a pure state of suffering. Suffering.
Yeah.
Being Kari Yamato is suffering.
By the way, speaking of Fate Stay Night, he is actually the Archer in Fate Stay Night 2006. Fun fact.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that for some
I
reason.
figured that'd be good
Can
to
we
do.
please do it? I'm willing to suffer through that.
I'd rather not. Point being, Liam O'Brien, he sounds really diabolical at times when he wants to be, but he sounds so in pain and suffering. Like, imagine if Gaara from Naruto's, like, internal turmoil was just never-ending. Never-ending. And...
So what you're saying is, while Gaara left the Hot Topic, Kari is basically the manager.
like, here's the thing. Karia is the most tragedy Shakespearean style ever, because he is tricked into killing the woman he
doesn't kill, he effectively kills her.
He effectively kills her. He basically cuts a lot of oxygen from her brain to the point that she is... What would I even call that? That is a tragedy right then and there. Point being, yeah. And in his dying moments, he runs to try and take away Sakura from all of this. And in his mind, the final moments are just, he has reunited the sisters. Aoi is there with him. The girls call him Daddy Karya as he slinks over on the stairs and falls to his death as he is consumed by the worms.
Yeah, and
then in the softest voice, Christina V goes, "You should never disobey grandfather."
It's so bad. It's so terrible. God, this is gonna be a meaty episode.
You know what that reminded me of when you said, like, she saw Sakura? It's the picture of Erica Lindbeck.
What?
That one selfie, Erica Lindbeck, eyes deader than Sakura Mato.
Oh, God. There's a lot of dead-eyed people in this show. Let's continue onward.
It's my turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's Beckett's turn.
So, I don't have a ton to say about Berserker other than Kyle Hebert does good growly noises. And his growling is very effective when he makes Saber cry. But I do like the contrast when you actually do get to hear normal Lancelot's voice. Like, for, like, the one split second. That he actually does sound like a completely different person. Like, he doesn't sound like he's full of corruption and awfulness. Zokon probably needs to go to an old folks' home and die. Like, Grandpa needs to be denied his Viagra worms. Just down the hatch. Ah, the worms have made my penis hard again. This is what you get for the glub bullshit.
Fair.
You earn the Roots of Justice let you earn this.
I am very uncomfortable. You have done your job well.
Just Zoken is a very uncomfortable man. Just Viag worms for the mage who doesn't have it all. Oh god, Mark Drayson is Tokiomi,
yes.
Correct? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, so man, I wanted to punch Tokiomi in the face for a majority of the series. And man, Mark Drayson does a good job giving him a very punchable voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a second, how can a voice be punchable? In that, Tokiomi Tosaka is like some asshole at a country club who puts his daughter into child beauty pageants and then puts his second-born in, like, the daycare going, "Daddy doesn't care right now, honey."
Oh my god.
He's so right.
Like, it's like, go home, Sarada. Dad, my name is Sakura. Whatever, Sarah. Dad, that's not even Japanese.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Megan, you are on some galaxy brain shit right now.
Okay, I totally owe you a soda when we get to Texas.
Go home. And, like, I would totally believe that this, like, if I ever met this person, like, if I heard this voice, I totally believe that this own man would sell his daughter into magical, like, essentially magical, like, old school, like, dowry worm bullshit. And he's such a sexist prick. With fucking Christ. Why have one? It's like, my daughters don't mean, if this was a male son, you wouldn't have fucking done it. Cause, fuck you, which is why, like, by the way, I like how very noble, like, how very false noble, Mark Dryson plays Tokiomi in Death. Because Tokiomi is the only person who died in this show, besides, like, the affably evil, like, Uryu, and Caster, where I was like, heh. He had it coming.
Like, karma was gonna hit him something hard someday.
He ran into Kotomine's knife. He ran into Kotomine's knife 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh god, I remember my first reaction to when I saw Karia was, I like this guy, I hope nothing bad happens.
I saw that! I remember that! And I started hysterically laughing.
Man, you had no idea how hard it was to keep that to myself.
I was like, I hope nothing bad happens to Karia. He's really cool. What a good guy.
We were all in a text room. We couldn't look at each other, but we were all looking at each other, being like, nobody fucking say anything.
At least it happens in, like, the first and second episodes. Like, they rip that Band-Aid off.
Oh yeah, like, they just rip, they rip a lot of Band-Aids off very quickly. Like I said, dungeon full of worms. But God, I just wanted to, this man gets set on fire at one point.
He gets basically...
Good God, good Jesus Lord. Just bend over, poor Karia, why don't you?
I don't think there's a single person in his corner by the end. I think he get...
I'm in his fucking corner!
Aside from Megan. Like...
Karia deserved to win. Fuck everybody else. Karia deserved to save Sakura. Even if he did strangle a woman.
I'm going to be honest.
But at that point...
I'm going to be honest. I think the fact that... Here's the problem with that thing. He would have saved Sakura, but then he would have given that power to Zokin. Do you trust that man with any power and...
No, just kill Zokin! Have Berserker kill Zokin, you fucker! Just stick the sword up his ass!
Point being, Karia is truly the most tragic, humorous Shakespearean person.
Karia Mato is suffering!
It is the most suffering there ever is.
And he was hot! Karia, like, even post-worm Karia's kind of got it going on still.
I mean, a little LASIK like, in that eye, it'll come out.
I mean, it's something a contact and some foundation can't fix.
Can it fix all of the veins everywhere? And the bleeding.
I mean...
And the bugs coming out of the bleeding.
I mean, as long as the bugs don't come out of his dick, it's fine.
This is now leading to some very uncomfortable questions. I don't want to. Please, let's move on. I can't do this. I can't talk about centipedes coming out of his wee-wee.
Okay, Roots.
Okay.
I'm not done! Jesus Christ! Man, centipedes out of a wee-wee sounds like a bad Tokyo Ghoul doujin, but...
Ooh, wait! Hang on. Before we continue, I have to ask you something, Megan.
I've gotta pee!
No, Megan, before you pee. Megan, if you put Karia in Tokyo Ghoul, would he even be out of place?
No, he wouldn't, actually.
That's what I thought. You go pee.
Let me finish this, then I'll pee. And Liam O'Brien did a really good job playing him, and he played him so... He played it so close to himself, because I feel like Karia could have gone absolutely off the deep end, like, mustache twirling, like, psychopath, but he didn't. He played him with, like, quiet rage and, like, a man trying to keep hold of his last shred of dignity. And it was so good, and I felt so bad that he died. Yamato deserved better! And I think, honestly, this might be one of my favorite Liam O'Brien roles of all time.
Interesting.
And I just, God, holy shit, he was so good! Karia! Roots go, I'm gonna pee.
Okay. Alright, so I guess I'm gonna start with Berserker, because that's, like... That's the shallow end of the pool here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Kyle Hebert did a really good job. It's a role that's mainly grunting and screaming and, like... Just in brackets, angry noises. But, I think he did a really great job with that. Especially in the final confrontation with Saber. Where he's starting to... He's kind of regaining his wits and, like... And going through everything, and, like, that was heartbreaking. But, moving on to Tokiomi, who is the exact opposite. Oh god, like Megan said, Mark Durason had, like, the most punchable voice. Because he's playing Tokiomi with this false bravado, but you know in the back of your head, he would sell his daughter out for a nickel, because he pretty much did. He pretty much did. And Zoken... like, that was a role with such... Like, it's not even anger, he's just... It's just one of those things where he... Like, he's just a petty little shit. He is an old man, but he's also a petty little shit. And, oh, sorry, I'm pulling up the name real quick, because I forgot the name of his actor.
Michael Donovan?
Michael Donovan, thank you. And, Michael Donovan just... he gives it such a... Like, he has such a constant sneer in his voice with everything he does. Like, to Sakura, to Karia, to just about everybody he's not, like, in direct business with. And it's just great. And Liam O'Brien as Karia, like, I really like that he's sort of... Like Megan said, he has, like, a shred of dignity left, and he's trying to hold on to it with all of his might. He is probably the most tragic character of Fate Zero, and Liam O'Brien plays him flawlessly. Because there's, like, you can hear the anger in his voice, but it's like that passive-aggressive anger. And it's, like, it's great. All four of these actors did a really good job, and, like, thumbs up. Thumbs up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So once again, I'll start off with the one I kind of have the least to say about, and in this case, that would be Kyle Hebert's Lancelot. For the most part, he didn't really have too much to do in the show besides, like, grunts and stuff. I mean, but that stuff is important too, and he handled all of that very well. But for me, his performance mostly came down to his final scene where Saber realizes who he is. And to his credit, Kyle Hebert handled that scene really well. Like, again, it was only one scene, but in that one scene, you could really just feel the level of grief his character was carrying. Especially, like, yeah, especially when he's, like, really trying his best to console Saber and be like, it's not your fault that this happened. And it just makes that whole scene all the more tragic, and I really enjoyed his delivery there.
Mm-hmm.
And as for Liam O'Brien as Karia, and full disclosure, I should probably mention that Liam O'Brien is pretty high up on my list of favorite anime voice actors. Like, I'm not sure if he's so quite in my top 5, but he's definitely up there. So it goes without saying that he can pretty much do no wrong in my eyes, and sure enough, he did not do any wrong here. same can't quite be said for Karia, though, because boy, howdy does this man go through some stuff. And, like, in the beginning, I feel like
Yamato did nothing wrong.
Yeah, like, in the beginning, I feel like he's just driven purely by this genuine desire to help Sakura just reunite her with Rin and all of that good stuff.
And then it becomes a desire to basically kill all, especially spite Tokuyomi.
Yep. Like,
I mean, he's not wrong. Tokuyomi deserves to be spited. Fuck Tokuyomi.
Look, Tokuyomi sucks, but here's the thing. At some point, it becomes less about helping others and more about spiting others and satisfying himself, and that's his downfall.
Yep, the more time we spend with him, the more it becomes apparent that the bigger thing driving him is that jealousy he feels towards Tokuyomi, and that what he really ultimately wants is to replace him. And Liam O'Brien just really juggles that character arc of making the character go from, like, very heroic to very, like, kind of twisted pretty much perfectly. And but even throughout it all, he still manages to make Kario feel very sympathetic throughout that whole ordeal. And even when everything eventually backfires on him, you still can't help but pity the guy, and I really appreciate that. As far as Mark Direction is concerned, it's really a shame we haven't got to talk about him up until now, because even though a lot of his earlier work includes, like, Fork and Subs and whatnot, he's a very strong actor, and even in those days, he really stood out a lot. As for his Tokuyomi, he does a really great job of giving this character this grand sense of nobility and pride, but unlike Kadef, who's, like, really smoking into your face about it, Tokuyomi comes off as very much more reserved and resolute in his ways, like, very set in his ways. I feel like he would do that Calvin Candy thing in, like, Django Unchained, where, like, he acts very friendly, but he would absolutely pull out that skull and be like, and this is why Muggles are inferior.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Okay. Jet, you've seen Django Unchained, right?
Yes.
He would totally be Leonardo DiCaprio.
That's who Calvin Candy is. That's who Calvin Candy is.
Oh, I didn't hear Calvin Candy, dumbass.
Yeah, I did specifically say Calvin Candy. So
yeah.
So he would very much be, like, very friendly, polite, but pull out the skull and be like, and this is why Muggles are inferior.
That is so on the point. That is so on point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Unfortunately, being set in his ways means that he kind of sees his children more as tools, more than, like, well, children. And Mark Direction's delivery when he gives that whole speech to Kari about, like, the nature of mages, it really gives a clear impression of how much faith this guy has in his cause, while also really making you want to see him get punched in the face.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of wanting to get punched in the face, boy, howdy, Michael Donovan. I wasn't, like, too familiar with him before this because I'm not super good at keeping up with Canadian dubs, but he was easily my favorite villain performance in the whole show, and given the amount of villains in this show, that's really saying something. From the very second Zoken opens his mouth, you can pretty much tell he's bad news, and Michael Donovan just makes the guy sound like a total slime ball, oozing evil pretty much every second he's on screen. And it kind of helps that unlike a lot of the other villains in this show who are, like, well, not necessarily conflicted, but they do kind of have, like, their own kind of weird moral standings, he's just very honest about how twisted he is. Like, he doesn't even lie. Like, straight about the line, he's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm just in this to mess with my son. I don't even care anymore.
Like, here's the thing. A lot of the villains in the show are very two-faced and multi-dimensional. The second you see Zoken, you see an evil, rotted taint of a fruit, and you're just like, yeah, this guy's bad news. The second.
Evil, rotted taint.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's very honest about how twisted he is, and while it makes him a little more one-dimensional than some of the other villains, he's also just very much a treat to watch. You can tell Michael Donovan was having a lot of fun with this guy. But anyway, all four of these performances were really great, and I honestly wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah.
And now we're going to move on to our next section, where we're going to change things up a bit, because we're not talking about master-servant pairs. This time we're talking about a group of ladies, specifically three very important ladies in Kiritsugu's life. Yeah. I was 5 seconds away from saying Kiri Kotomine.
God damn it. No.
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 I blame you for this, Megan.
Look.
First of all, Kotomine doesn't want any pussy. He wants that dick.
Okay, yes, that's
Very true.
Okay.
At least in this show. Extended Universe Kotomina, I don't know what the fuck.
He's really attracted to really spicy foods. That's what I know. Anyways,
Okay, so anyway, these three ladies, we have Maya Hisao, Irisville von Eisberg, and Natalia.
did you ever say what your name for this group was?
Yes, the name for this group I had written down was Kiritsugu's Angels.
I think that's very, very fair. I'd also say...
I'm really mad that we were originally going to record this on Skype, but it was giving me really weird, like, leveling problems. But I want to fight whoever decided to make our chat name for the call Fate Zero We Go again.
Oh, you're still on about that?
Yes! That was such a bad pun, and I don't know whether to be pissed or impressed.
Yes. Can't you be both?
I'm gonna armbar your ass on Wednesday.
God damn it.
Okay, so anyway, Maya is Kiritsugu's assistant and partner in mage hunting. Irisville is Kiritsugu's wife and daughter of the Eisberg family, who was married off to Kiritsugu, in the hopes that the Eisberg would obtain the Holy Grail. And lastly, Natalia was Kiritsugu's mentor, who taught him the ways of magecraft and assassination.
Happy Mother's Day, bitch!
There's a lot of complicated relationships with Kiritsugu and all three of these ladies. It's
yeah. So do you think Kiritsugu's favorite song is Rocket Man?
No. By the way,
William Shatner version.
Okay, hang on.
Rocket Man.
I'll let you not say who plays these characters before I propose a little theory of mine.
Okay, so playing Maya, we have Carrie Carradine. Playing Irisville, we have Bridget Hoffman. And playing Natalia, we have good old Wendy Lee. Carrie Carradine, you would know as Casca from Berserk. Mami Tomoe from Puella Magi Madoka Magica. And Karta Issue from Mobile Suit Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans. This is the first time we're talking about Bridget Hoffman on this show, but she's been around for a long time, and some of her other work includes Jerry Kato from Digimon Tamers, Namine Yagiri from Durarara, and Ryoko Asakura from the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. And as for Wendy Lee, we've talked about her a few times, and at this point she's literally been doing anime dubs for longer than I've been alive. And some of her other work includes Faye Valentine from Cowboy Bebop, Dokuro in Blazing Angel Dokuro-chan, and Dorothy in Martin Awakens Romance. I just went for the most obscure ones possible.
That's fair. Okay, I was like, what are those? Anyways, so, where do we start? Okay. Anyways, before I go into my thoughts on these voice performances, I want to propose a theory to you. So, how much you want to bet that there is some possibility that the strange relationship with Maya started because he saw something from Natalia in her?
I can honestly kind of believe that.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, no, it's just something about that relationship. It's just like she seems very familiar to Natalia. And I thought that was something interesting. I'm also trying to figure out if, like, the attraction is there in regards to, like, if it's mutual or if it's just something that Maya's into and he just doesn't stop her.
I lean toward the latter, personally.
Yeah. It's pretty ambiguous, but we do some butter. Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, it's just something I thought that was interesting that I noticed. So, starting off with Maya, Carrie Kiernan has a very interesting, stoic, badass voice, and she doesn't get to do much, but she gets to be very cool, menacing, as well as look good in a suit. There's a lot of ladies in the show that get to wear suits. I think that's pretty nifty. And yeah, I think I have the least to say about her, just because we don't go too much into her. All we know is that she's a child of war who was picked up by Kiritsugu, and then kind of like it's like the cycle from Natalia to him to her. It's like a cycle of apprenticeship with strange undertones in their relationships. And going to Natalia, Wendy Lee is really cool and badass as Natalia. She's really interesting. She's only there for like 2 episodes, but her presence is very notable from like this big sister mother character. And the final phone call between the two of them, which I actually wasn't sure at first if she was aware that like Kiritsugu was going to do it. But it seems very clear at the end, she kind of knew the entire time, and she sort of accepted, I'm not getting out of this, I just want to talk to you and kind of let it all out in the open before you put me down. And that's heartbreaking. Gosh damn, is it heartbreaking. And Irisfield, Bridget Hoffman. Irisfield is basically the actual master of Saber throughout this entire show. Let's be real here.
Yeah.
Kiritsugu's whole thing is that he's just working in the shadows. He's mainly master in name and by command seals alone, but Irisfield is the actual partner master in this relationship. And I think that's really interesting. What I also find compelling is her genuine sweetness, but also the fact that, like, by all intents and purposes, they are day and night in regards to their relationship together. But Kiritsugu
and Irisfield?
Kiritsugu and Irisfield, yeah.
Someone will die. A fun!
Basically. God, they are... God, that is absolutely that relationship to a T, fuck. But yeah, no, it's just... It's the kind of thing I didn't think would work, but also... I do genuinely think they did love each other. Like, there's some debate about... They don't show him mourning her, but it's very clear from the beginning she was always going to become the cup and lose herself. And they kind of both seem to have made peace with that. And I find that really interesting and tragic, but I do find their relationship really interesting and compelling. Bridget Hoffman has this very princess-like sweetness and authoritativeness to her. Like, she herself is not pushy, but she herself is very sweet and authoritative. And when she asserts her power and her dominance, like, she tries to own the situation when she's dealing with all these other masters, especially when she has that deal when it comes to dealing with Tokiyomi. She exerts a lot of power, and it's tragic. And when she does, like, confront Kirei Kotomine, it's really interesting how even in her final moments she's talking down to him. Also, when she's talking to Kiritsugu as the cup, it's heartbreaking. God. But yes, these are 3 very different, very complicated women in Kiritsugu's life, and all of them are very interesting. And it's actually really interesting seeing her and Maya interact, which I think is very, very weird, but I totally buy that. It's like, she doesn't like the relationship, but she accepts that he loves her. Also, at the end, we confirms that even if he had to choose, he would still choose Irisfield over Maya, which, don't tell Maya, but thank God she's already dead. She doesn't have to know.
Yeah.
All 3 of them did good job.
It happens.
Man, there's just like a bunch of NTR teams.
Like I said, the hidden theme of the show is twisted love.
Tainted love.
Got to, taint. No way, I've got to.
Had to
save the world.
I shot my mother and
cried my
plate full of zombies.
Okay, let's move on. Oh my God, how long are we? This is gonna be a big episode, guys.
Yeah, we're almost.
Yeah,
I figured that's why I wanted to start at 7.
Yeah, we're almost done though. We're getting there.
Okay.
We're getting there. No, so, fun fact, I watched the first 5 episodes of this show with my mom. And the first time she saw Maya, and she knew that Irisvale and Kiritsugu were married. So when she saw Maya kiss Kiritsugu, my mom's like, who's that slut? And I just kind of, like, shrugged at her. I'm like, bitch, I don't know. We're watching this together.
That's amazing.
My mom knows. But no, I liked Carrie Keenan as Maya. It kind of reminded me a lot of, like, proto Satsuki from Kill la Kill.
Yeah, okay.
Or at least the Satsuki that is not, like, who is putting on the face to be the head of the school.
Yeah.
Or I can't remember what the fucking school in Kill la Kill is.
Honoji Academy.
Okay, there we go.
Honoji Academy, thank you. So I genuinely enjoyed it, and she does not waver in her performance. Like, Maya does not know what joy is as a concept.
Mm.
And it just stays. And it is very surreal. Like, it is this very surreal, emotionless soldier character. And I'm just like, I got you there. I got you, Maya. Wendy Lee was really impactful for the 2 episodes that she's in. She kind of plays that very charismatic mage hunter who is very much, I think, suppressing how she really feels about Kiritsugu. Fun fact, like, the first time you actually hear Kiritsugu, I think, openly cry in the entire show is when he shoots down the plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, just shot through the heart.
He's also crying when he's holding a dead Maya in his arms, which further proves my theory of Maya is a pseudo Natalia replacement.
Or
he
the
is,
other way around, probably.
or he's the Natalia to
Right.
Maya,
Ooh.
and he failed her,
Mm.
and he let his daughter die essentially. Because once we get to Kiritsugu, we'll learn that Kiritsugu basically loses everything. So,
More or less.
And then Eriesville. Oh god, this is weird to say. I think Eriesville's performance is really good. I just don't know if it ever really settled with me. I always felt like Bridget Hoffman had this very, like, unplaceable slight accent to her voice. As Eriesville. And it just didn't feel like it belonged to any country. So, it bothered me. Because she has a very, like, breathy way of speaking. And very noble and very regal. Until she obviously becomes the Grail.
Yeah.
And when she becomes the girl, that is some straight up Evangelion horror shit.
Oh, yeah.
Just a bunch of Eriesville clones just, like, reaching for her in tiny little babby hands.
Yeah.
It's like, this is only the second most terrifying thing in the show behind the fucking worm dungeon.
Yeah.
Number 3 is Glub Glub.
Yarp.
Number 4 is Glub Glub's basement.
Yeah.
But just, I really like Eriesville's character, and I like Bridget Hoffman's performance. It just didn't sit with me very well. It's like you ate something that's really good, but there's just, like, something that just doesn't satisfy you about it. And I think it's this that I kept hearing the teeniest accent.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's there or not. And I could be high, because when I mentioned, I'm like, so does Eriesville speak with an accent? Y'all in the chat were just kind of like, no. But I enjoyed all 3 of them. I kind of am really sad that Maya died, because I would have liked to see her, like, be in the next Grail War for UBW, but obviously she's not, so.
Yeah.
Okay, Roots.
Yeah, I guess I will, I guess I'll start with Eilesville. So, I really like the fact that she sort of had, like, the bubbly personality, sort of contrasting everything around her. Like, everything in the show is so dark and negative. And she's, like, this one little bright spot. She's
Also, I love the moment when she's driving the car. I forgot about that.
Like everything memeable about the car driving scene. Like, that was just great. And, like, it really sounds like she's having a lot of fun with everything going on around her. And it sounds like Bridget Hoffman had a lot of fun with the performance. That said, I actually remember the first trailer Aniplex put out for Fate Zero back when it was announced for Neon Alley. Like,
oh yeah, Neon Alley was a thing.
And, like, Bridget Hoffman's performance and the like, line or two she gets in that trailer sounded so rough. And I wasn't sure I was actually gonna like it, and then and then one thing led to another, and I blind bought the series. And, you know, I watched through it the first time, and, like, it actually started to grow on me, and Megan, you're not exactly wrong with that feeling that was there sort of something Bridget Hoffman put into her voice for the performance. Like, because I'm not sure either. There was, like, maybe it was just sort of that stage wonkiness of the script. But yeah, there was just something I couldn't place in her performance, so you're not alone. And then, like, the creepy stuff with the Grail, yeah. So Maya and Carrie, like, I really liked it, and she really conveyed her sort of loyalty to Kiritsugu, and like sort of the detachment syndrome, because she was basically a child of war, and she just sort of has that cold detachment from stuff she feels she has to do for the sake of like the people she cares about. Like, she could completely dissociate herself from like sniping someone from a building away, and I really like that in that performance, because she really doesn't have much except in the like 2 episodes. I don't remember much of Wendy Lee as Natalia, to tell the truth. I know she played it really well as sort of the like kind of mature like mentor to Kiritsugu, and then I also remember the plane scene, but that's about it. But I know she did a really great job, so yeah.
Okay. So also in Maya, since like I feel like she weirdly kind of had the least to do with these 3, despite the amount of screen time she had. But I liked her, and I liked Carrie Carrier's performance. Maya's clearly supposed to come off as very kind of cold and distant, and you can feel that in Carrie's portrayal of her. But you can also tell that there's, like a little bit more light beneath the surface.
I feel like Maya's character as a whole is the most read the light novel character in this series.
Probably, yeah.
Probably. But like I was saying, you can tell that there's something lying beneath the surface, and it comes out when we learn more about her history with Kiritsugu, and also through some of her interactions with Irisville in particular, where when she's with her, she comes off as like a little bit more gentle than when she's with everyone else, and I thought that was a really effective little touch where, I mean, where you can tell like she does have this kind of, where she does actually have this nice little bit of respect for her, and I thought that was really interesting. And speaking of Irisville, I will also admit that I wasn't super big on Bridget Hoffman's performance back in the day, since it felt a little rough around the edges to me back then. And while it still does in some areas, I appreciate it now a lot more than I did when I first watched it. Irisville is supposed to come up as, like kind of naive and innocent in a sense, and Bridget Hill handles that aspect of the character fairly well. But it's also very apparent that Irisville is also, very insightful and always aware of what her role in the battle is supposed to be. And I think it's in those more, like, serious moments where Bridget's performance kind of shines through the most for me. And I think, and one of my favorite scenes with her was that whole bit where she's, like, chastising Kiritsugu for keeping his intentions unclear to Saber, like, after he does Root dirty. I really like that whole bit.
I like how she isn't afraid to speak her mind just because, like, they're, like, hubby and wife or something like that. She's like, no, you deserve to give her something after that. It's like, yeah. But even then, she's still always in his corner, and, like, even in death, she's basically shitting on Kotomine, and I love that. I respect that.
Yeah.
Bless.
Yeah, and
also, unrelated thing. I really like the second ending. It just kind of tells the story of how their relationship sort of takes off. It's very subtle, but you get just enough of it to see how it starts out as this sort of like, what the hell's going on here, to finding out you care for her, bonding time with her, and then being vulnerable, and basically the one shot of him breaking down crying at night as she just holds him, and I think that's just really effective.
These two made a child.
They did make a child.
Yeah.
I wonder if he was ribbed for her pleasure.
Yeah.
Look. Look. Let's put it like this. He had ribs removed, so he was probably a little bit flexible with his neck.
So what you're saying is, do you think Kiritsugu can suck his own dick?
I'm saying Kiritsugu can. I'm saying Kiritsugu can, in theory, suck his own dick.
Yay!
So continuing on, I also know the show was like kind of ambiguous as to whether or not Maya Kitsugu had some kind of secret thing going on. But I get the impression that Irisville probably knew that Maya liked Kiritsugu and just didn't feel like particularly threatened by it because, the whole I'm going to become a vessel for the Grail thing. And lastly, for Wendy Lee as Natalia, she wasn't in the show as much as the other two, but she left quite a big impact, and Wendy Lee, Wendy Lee had pretty much zero problems playing up the whole cool female assassin thing, since she's not really certain to doing that at this point. But at the same time, she was also able to get across the slightly more compassionate side of Natalia that we only really get to see in her final moments. And while, like with Kyle Hiber's Lancelot, she only had, that one major scene to really sell us on her character, she handled that scene beautifully, and I almost teared up when I rewatched the show, honestly. And, these three ladies did a fine job, and while I still can't say I'd rate Bridget Hoffman's performance among my favorites in the show, I appreciate its place in the ensemble a lot more now, and I got a lot more enjoyment out of it in my rewatch than in the first time around. Okay, and with that, we are heading into our final three pairs, the most important.
Basically, the kings and their concubines.
Yep. And
Excuse me, don't you talk about Waver fucking Velvet like that.
Yep, okay, yep. It is time to talk about the real heroes of this story, Waver Velvet and Ryder, aka Iskandar.
The best characters.
Yeah!
The best.
The best characters.
Yeah.
Editors, note to the editor, it is at this point, if you can get the track You Are My King to start exactly now.
Okay.
Wow. Okay, so Waver Velvet is a young mage without a long family lineage, and decides to join the Holy Grail War in an attempt to be taken more seriously. As for Iskandar, Megan, would you give us a lowdown, please?
Cool, sure. So Iskandar is actually the Eastern name for Alexander the Great, who is considered to be the greatest military tactician of all time, who they believe was to be born on July 21st or 22nd, and lived until June 10th or June 11th, who died at the age of only 32. Despite having a very short life by our time, Alexander the Great was the student of Aristotle and the king of Macedonia. Known for assuming his throne at the age of 20, he was known for the largest military conquest and creating the largest ancient empire in the world only by the age of 30 that stretched from Greece to northwest India. Historically, Alexander the Great was known to have never lost a battle in search for quote-unquote the end of the world and the Great Outer Sea, which I believe it's called Okeanos.
Yeah,
Okeanos. I can't speak Greek, guys. Okeanos. However, he died after a victory over the Paravasian people in the Battle of Hypatia and passed away in Babylon at the age of 32 because his men were essentially homesick. So he literally gave up his quest for his own men. His legacy includes upwards of 20 cities named for him, most importantly the city of Alexandria in Egypt. He also caused cultural diffusion and syncretism, bringing together and blending cultures under one banner, spreading Greek culture, which resulted in the Hellenistic civilization. To this day, Alexander the Great is studied for his military tactics and influence. Essentially, looking into the Fate lore, a lot of this stuff kind of seems very similar, but what they use specifically in Fate Zero is essentially his charisma and tactics and his ability to bring the best out of people. His noble phantasms include the Gordius Wheel, which essentially is that, I guess they believed him to be the son of the Greek god Zeus.
It's a lightning chariot, basically.
It's a lightning chariot. The bulls which Ryder calls the children of Zeus were originally an offering from Zeus to King Gordius, but Alexander claimed them by cutting the Gordian knot with his sword. The reputation of this act apparently defined him. That's why he's in the Ryder class.
Okay.
And his other noble phantasm is Ioni Hetonia,
Ionian
the army of the
Hetairoi.
king. Hetairoi. Fuck, I can't speak. Etonian Hetairoi, which essentially is essentially described by Tokiomi to be the only thing that will rival another the servant we're talking about next is Noble Phantasm. It basically sends you to a reality marble, essentially an alternate plane that embodies Alexander the Great's dreams and philosophies as kings, and the bonds formed with his subjects in life sublimated as his Noble Phantasm.
Basically, you get sent to another dimension where he throws his whole dang army at you.
Yeah, and it's fucking cool as shit. And by the way, if you look really close the first time they summon it in episode 10, you can see an older version of Waver as one of them.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
Lord
yeah.
Elroy.
Yeah.
Lord El Malloy II.
That's great. Okay, so, playing Waver Velvet, we have Lucian Dodge, who you would know as Taku Mayuzumi in Excel World, Zoisite in the Viz redub of Sailor Moon, and Blue from Pokemon Origins. And for his Kandar, we have one Jameson Price, who you would know as Chad from Bleach, Lord Jano from Gurren Lagann, and believe it or not, Kiri Kotomine in the 2006 Deep version of Fate Stay Night.
He's also my favorite samurai husband, Kurisu from Kabanari.
Oh, I forgot. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay.
Yeah,
That he was the original king. Wow, I mean, hey man, I've watched Jameson Price be suave in Moe. I've watched Kabanari.
Okay.
How do you do, fellow samurai?
Okay. So let's start. First off, Lucian Dodge as Waver. Waver really is a character that I think comes the most into his own, just because he starts the show effectively being a little brat and grows much more. Like, he effectively steals the thing from Archibald to spite him because he's an asshole. And
I mean, wouldn't you?
fair enough, but even then, it's like he does that out of spite, and like he is very much a bookworm guy who is very serious and studious, who himself does not really know much of the world. He knows about magic, and he is still a fresh mage, but and you pair him with Iskandar, he really grows into his own person as somebody who respects him, somebody who respects the life that he lived and wants to live his life. By the end of the series, he wants to take time away from his studies to see the world, to explore the world, to learn more about himself and develop as a person. And that's so interesting. And Lucian Dodge brings out like this kind of brattiness, but also this sincerity, this vulnerability. And when he does show his strength and come up to bat, he really gets those moments across too. There's just something about him as Waver that just works perfectly. Speaking of perfect, Jameson Price as the king the king of conquerors, Iskandar, is one of the greatest characters in the show. Jameson Price also probably being one of the best performances in this show, just because he is larger than life. Also, that man is like at most 32. God damn, the fucking biceps on him. It's like he could basically like curl his arms and break a watermelon.
He could bench Bill Clinton.
He could bench Bill Clinton easily. There's not even a contest. But yeah, no. I love Ryder's character. I love Iskandar's character. And just, they are such very different people that bring out the best in each other. Like, I love that exchange, like, when he gets so interested in the world around him. Like, he's not like, the world was different the way I was. He's like, this is so interesting. This is so new. Look at all these things. Look at this tiny box. Look at this man who thinks he's a king. I can beat the shit out of him. But also, like...
Fuck this bitch-ass white
But he's
boy.
also, like, wears a t-shirt from a limited edition video game. I love that exchange where he's like, hey, Waver, I bought a video game. You...
Wait, can we do this?
You want to be...
Hey! I want to be
Okay.
Iskandar. Hey, I bought a video
You
game.
idiot. What's the point in buying software if you don't have the hardware?
You take me for a bitch-ass casual boy? Got that shit too. Now let us go play.
God, that's such a...
That is like the worst Jameson Price impression. I'm sorry, I'm not whack. But by the way, I'd like to point out that Andrew can actually do a semi-decent Lucian dodge.
Oh yeah,
that was
pretty
actually really good.
You know what? That doesn't make me happy. I don't care about you guys right now. You think I appreciate yet? Whatever.
And now you ruined it.
Okay.
Respect my
Soiled
authority.
Narday!
I don't...
Cartman would also be in the writer class.
I don't need this right now, but I appreciate the praise. Anyways, no, but I love this character.
Boy.
It's just... What?
Nothing.
It just... There's something... This is, like... He reminds me of what I saw between... That moved me so much about Izuku and All Might's relationship with one another. And I see a lot of that dynamic in regards to both Waver and Ryder. And I think that's a very similar parallel, in that Ryder is a larger-than-life dreamer. He is a king. He fights for his people, with his people. The exchange of his view of being a king is that he has to be stronger, wiser, and rasher than everybody else, so his servants will think he's larger than life and want to follow him, and they do. And the respect he commands, the power he wields, even the biggest shithead in the entire show, at the very end, acknowledges his might and shows respect for him. Jameson Price is so good at showing the majesty, the power, the strength, and the emotion that Ryder conveys, and it's beautiful. I love these characters, and I think Lucian Dodge and Jameson Price are perfect.
Okay, Megan?
There is nothing bad I could ever say about Lucian Dodge's Waver or Jameson Price as Iskandar. Like, they are this is bar none, two of the most perfect performances ever put to an English dub.
Wow.
Like,
yeah, I have to agree.
They are fucking perfect. Like, there was no moment of, like, hesitation as somebody who has never watched this show. Like, as somebody who went into the show almost blind, the only thing I'm ever told is Waver and Iskandar are the best characters in the show. That's it. So they had a lot to live up to. And they did, and I loved every second of it. I almost, like, not a lot in this show almost brought me to tears, but their, like, final moments, like, their final 15 minutes together fucking almost killed me. Just Jesus fucking Christ. Like, I don't know how to explain how it's so good. Lucian just goes on such a journey with Waver, and it's helped by, in itself, that the show writes Waver as such a redeemable, endearing character, despite, at the very beginning, that he's kind of doing a lot of, like, semi-awful shit. Like, hypnotizing people and killing chickens. And being a thief. And he's such kind of this bratty little child, but Lucian never goes to, like, snotty, whiny child with him. Like, he never goes, like, full, like, Randall from Recess voice. And he lets his voice grow and get more confident as a person as Waver gets to grow up. And by the end of that journey, you're just like, yeah, fuck yeah, Waver. But God, Jameson Price Iskandar just leaves such an impression on you as a person. Like, even if you don't like anime, I think if you just described Iskandar in his actions and his personality, he's just such a well-written character. He's such, like, I just fucking love it. It's perfect to me. There is nothing I can say. It's perfect.
You know what you can say? Master or not, you are still my friend.
My friend.
And always will be.
And always will be. I am not his master, I'm his retainer.
No.
that fucking almost drove me to
Get a little
tears.
misty here.
And just, Jesus Christ, like, legitimately, if you know nothing about Fate, or if you don't have any desire to watch anything other than Fate, watch the fight between Archer and Ryder at the end of Zero, all the way through, for some of the best dialogue between two people you'll ever see.
Iskandar tonight is less than perfect, and thus far
Perfect.
greater than perfection itself.
Perfect will ever be.
That was so good.
God, it's so fucking good! Go ahead.
Okay, first and foremost, Waver and Ryder should have been the main protagonists of this show.
I don't agree,
Like,
but here's the thing. For what the show needed to be,
They needed not to be the main characters.
I think they needed to be witnesses to all of this, and oh, before we go on, I need to say something interesting. Here's the thing about the Holy Grail War. The Holy Grail War has very specific rules and things that you can and cannot do. Here's the thing about the Holy Grail War. It is ripe for exploitation and breaking the rules. Waver and Ryder are the only master-servant duo in the entirety of Fate Zero that never once break the rules.
This is true.
okay, well then maybe if not, they should be the protagonists of Fate Zero. They need their own thing. I need, the Cooking with Shiro Emiya show, but with, Ryder and Waver as roommates.
Or maybe you could have, a reverse of, the older Waver and the younger Iskandar.
Yeah, because, they actually do there's actually a manga series about Lord Elmaloy II as, a magical detective, and he's just a shithead.
That sounds dumb, but I kind of want to read that now. But, okay, we're going
if Ryder were in there, it would make it even better. But anyway, in the dub, they are, the perfect duo. Jameson Price and Lucian Dodge, play off of each other perfectly. And Jameson Price plays off of the other servants perfectly. Just about everyone he encounters. From, Caster to Berserker to, he's one of the few people who actually legit respects Saber. Even though, to the point where...
He respects her as a warrior.
Right.
Not as a king.
But he pities her... But he pities her fate.
To
And I want to point that out, that, even if he pitied her fate, he never talked down to her other than at the Thing of Kings to shatter her faith. Other than that, Iskandar treated her with such respect.
Which is...
And I appreciate that I appreciate that, because when he kind of broke her down, I thought Iskandar was going to be a sexist prick, and he never was, and I fucking
he honored her spirit, and he was sad about her fate, but he respected her as a foe and a warrior, which is the exact opposite you could say about Gilgamesh, because he sees her being sad once, and he's like, ooh, I'ma tap that.
Yeah, for the most part, except for, the truly despicable servants, Ryder has a respect for, each of his opponents, and he will fight honorably to the end, and, it's just great. And Waver, he starts out as, a little brat, but he grows up through the course of the series. The two of them probably get the most character development out of, any of the Master-Servant combinations. Just sheer character development. These two are
at least character development that doesn't break them or turn them into terrible people.
Right. If anything, it makes Waver a better person in the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's in terms of duos of dub actors, this is probably one of my favorites ever.
Indeed.
So, I could just heap praise on this for the next 2 hours, but I'm gonna pass it on to Jet.
Okay. Alright, So if you follow me on Dub Talk or Twitter for any extended period of time, you would know that for a long time I've been advocating that Lucian Dodge needs to be in a leading role in an anime dub. Sadly that hasn't happened yet, but this, alongside his role in the Excel World dub, were two of the very first things I had ever heard of him. And his work here in particular really impressed me, and is kind of what started that whole little crusade. He gives off this, genuine sense of floppiness, I guess, where Waver puts on, an air of confidence where he pretends like he's really full of himself, like he's all of that, but in reality he's, very timid. And both angles come across really well in just about every aspect of Lucian's delivery. And Waver's character arc, where he goes from being this guy who's, really desperate to prove his worth and is obviously pretty bratty to, learn to believe in himself a lot more, is frankly the most optimistic thing we ever see in this show. And that growth and maturity is reflected in Lucian's performance, where you can really feel a higher sense of confidence in his tone by the end of the show. And as for Jameson Price's writer, honestly, anything I say really can't do this with justice. I've been aware of Jameson Price for a long time. Even before this show came out, I knew who he was thanks to watching some mid-2000s dubs like Van Dread and whatnot. However, even for as many characters as he's done at this point, whenever I think of Jameson Price as an actor, this one role, without exception, is always the very first thing that comes to mind for me. Iskandar is supposed to be a character that's larger than life, and Jameson Price's take on him honestly feels like it's larger than the universe itself. And every second Iskandar comes on screen, Jameson Price's performance is just bursting through the seas with energy, and it never lets up. Everything about it just gives off this air of both extreme confidence and also extreme sincerity, where Iskandar is going to absolutely do whatever he wants, but he's also always going to be very honest about what he wants, even when it gets him into, kind of hairy situations. And of course, he also knows when to, dial it down and be serious, which I appreciated from Jameson Price's performance. And he handles Iskandar's, very few quiet moments just as well as all of his loud ones. So this is a performance where it feels like every ounce of Jameson Price's heart and soul was poured into it, and honestly, he pretty much is this character to me. But fun as these two performances are, though, what really made them stand out was just how well they played off of each other. The chemistry between Lucian Dodge's wishy-washy Waver and Jameson Price's, supremely confident Iskandar is just so natural that from the very first moment these characters meet, it feels like you could just watch a show that's really, honestly, just about them talking to each other. And it's incredibly easy to see how these two kind of transition from being a sort of awkward pair to Ironforged friends. And that whole scene where Iskandar Waver becomes Iskandar's honorary vassal, that whole bit pretty much broke my heart into pieces.
Yeah.
And, I really enjoyed watching these two together. So much so that I'd say that they probably make for one of my favorite voice acting duos in pretty much any anime dub. And these two are easily the best performances of this stuff to be bar none. So
they are also probably the best people in the show. So it's only
let's get to the fucking
worst. Let's get to the absolute scum.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Yes, we got to be happy for a moment. Now it's dark times ahead.
Let's meet the man with the world's itchiest asshole and the world's worst gay awakening.
Yep. So now we move on. Yep. So we move on from the true heroes of the story to the main villains of the story, Kirei Kotomine and Archer.
Boo!
And Archer, aka Gilgamesh.
Boo!
Kirei Kotomine is a priest from the Holy Church who is brought into the Holy Grail War in order to assist Tokiomi in obtaining the Grail, and becomes his apprentice in Magecraft. As for Gilgamesh, how about you take this one, Roots?
Yeah, so there is actually a lot to the myth of Gilgamesh. It is believed that Gilgamesh was actually a real king who ruled the Sumerian city-state of Uruk. And it was believed it was sometime between, 2500 BCE and 2800 BCE. That's about all we know, from historical record. But this man is basically the Sumerian Hercules. He was according to mythology, he was a demigod.
That's why he's technically still in this game. You can't have gods. Demigods are fair game.
Right. That becomes an important fact in a later series, but he would basically do trials just because. And he also had a quote-unquote confidant named Enkidu, who was basically a wild man when the two first met, that Gilgamesh quote-unquote tamed. But during one of Gilgamesh's many quests, Enkidu died. And Gilgamesh went on a long journey to find the secret of immortality. And he basically found the Sumerian equivalent of Noah, who had survived a great flood. And asked him for the secret of immortality, which apparently there isn't any. And instead he was given an elixir that would basically restore youth to somebody. And Gilgamesh had intended to use this to revive Enkidu. But a snake ended up stealing the elixir and shed its skin for the first time. Which is, in fact, the crafting material that was used to summon Gilgamesh into the Holy Grail War. The first skin shed by a snake. In terms of Fate mythology, like, a lot of that is... Like, Enkidu, I couldn't find anything in, like, Fate lore.
He is another servant. He's actually a servant.
In Fate Grand Order, which, honestly, let's be real, everybody's a servant in that.
Yeah.
He's in another one, too, but I forget what class he's in. I want to say he's, like, Berserker caster.
But, Gilgamesh basically maintains his smugness. And that is personified through his noble phantasm, the Gate of Babylon, which he uses to store all of the treasures he obtains in his conquests.
It's basically a never-ending weapons locker.
Right. And that's basically it. So, Jet, who plays these two?
Okay. Alright, so playing Gilgamesh, we have David Ernest, who has done such other roles as the narrator from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Senketsu from Kill la Kill, and Vaughn of the Dawn from Gun X Sword. And playing Kirei, and weirdly enough, this is somehow the very first time we have ever got to talk about this particular actor on this podcast. It's Crispin Freeman, y'all.
Holy shit, Crispin Freeman, get out of my bedroom!
Well played.
Stop yelling at me, Crispin!
The Hawaiian bloopers are so great. Okay, so Crispin Freeman you would know for such roles as Itachi Uchiha from the Naruto franchise, Alucard from Hellsing Ultimate, Kion from The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, and Sume from Wolf's Rain.
Man, where do I start? Fuck, okay,
This episode's going to be really fucking long, and we're sorry.
Well, to be honest, it's a classics episode, and that's kind of expected, but, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, starting off, let's start with Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is a piece of shit. That's the short version. The long version is David Vincent does a really good job making him sound very, like, authoritative, holier than thou, and I do enjoy his smarminess, though I definitely think it feels like he needed... This was a character I think needed to cheese it up a little bit more, just because he needed, like, he has the arrogance. Everything about him is arrogance. It just feels like, I would say he's playing it straight, but let's be honest, playing anything with Gilgamesh is anything but. Yeah, I think it was just like, it needs a little more smarm, or it needs a little more, like, twirly mustacheness, if that makes any sense. But even then, I still think David does a really solid job at making the punchability of Gilgamesh come to life. And just so sure and holier than thou. Speaking of holy, oh my god, Crispin Freeman. This man could read the Bible, and I would listen to it. And guess what? He reads a passage from the Bible, and I listen to it, and it's great. But the development from... basically good little Catholic boy to slowly discovering that he's actually kind of a sadistic psychopath.
You
and
listen to Slayer
Daddy's
once.
little sadist.
You listen to Slayer once. You take a fruit from the Garden of Babylon once, and you realize I kinda like ruining people's lives.
You take a lick from the gate of Bootylon once.
Oh, boy.
Look,
Come on, we all know that Power Bottom Gilgamesh would totally get Kyrie Kotomina to eat his ass.
of course he would. Gilgamesh, if Gilgamesh tells you to do something, you do it, no questions asked.
When Gilgamesh tells you to suck his dick, you get down on your knees and ask how hard.
See, that's the thing with Gilgamesh. He just sort of expects things to be done for him. That's why he is a bottom. He just lies there and he's just like, you know you're gonna. There's no fighting this. That's what makes him so creepy, and that's what makes him so diabolical when he's just like, oh, Saber, I can't wait for you to be in my bed. You remind me of all the virgins I've bedded in my life. And...
You're hot when you're crying.
oh god, he's so like, he straight up would...
I have what you exactly said. And it was, and
okay,
I quote,
the context is after she uses Excalibur to kill Castor, and Ryder and Archer are having a discussion.
Do I get to be Ryder?
Yes,
again
you
for
can.
this? I cannot acknowledge her because she was not the one who lived life and chose this path. It was a path thrust upon her. It is a fate far too tragic.
And Gilgamesh is just like, yeah, isn't it fucking hot?
Dude, you're weird.
Which is basically just Gilgamesh. But no, back to Kotomine. God, what an evil, psycho, sadistic fucker who just slowly discovers himself. And he's got so much, like, he sounds so stoic and cold and badass. But God, when he starts getting glee, when he starts discovering, I'm really interested in Kyrie because... I want to ruin his life. It's so fun. I wanted to see the world burn, and I did. It's great. I'm having such a good time right now.
Now put on this cloak and let's go home.
Also, you have to be a real freak to straight up give the daughter of the man you killed the weapon you killed her with.
Oh yeah, that's right!
What a freak. And Crispin Freeman...
At his funeral, by the way.
At his funeral. But yeah, no, Crispin Freeman is so diabolically manipulative, crazy, and evil. I love it.
If our last pair was on perfect sync, it would be utter perfection. This pair has one really, really good half and one kind of disappointing half. Let's start with the really good half. Kyrie Kotomine, as played by Crispin Freeman. Holy shit, this man could read the phone book in that sadistic-ass voice, and you would be enthralled.
Mm-hmm.
And he is such, like... There is, like, this aspect to him that, like, we keep making jokes about a guy having a gay awakening. This is a man who has a awakening into, like, I don't want to say sin because being gay is not a sin. This is a man who awakens to a part of him he didn't know he had. And I think one of the most, like, profound moments in this show is when, after his dad has been killed by Archibald, and Gilgamesh shows up and he goes, "You're mad you didn't get to do it yourself." And it just kind of rocks him to the core, and he's just like, you know what? Fuck yeah. And that's why he says, I think he says, when Tokiomi thinks that he booked the tickets out of Japan at Irisvale's demand, he goes, you know, I see you as a bit of a father figure to me. And then just stabs him in the back. And he is just so self-righteous glee and indentation. He is, like, you have to play this character larger than life. Like, you cannot be reserved playing a character this fucking evil in a Shakespearean tragedy, which is why Gilgamesh is a disappointment. It is not a bad performance in any way, shape, or tone. It's a really good performance. It was missing something, and that was sexual charisma.
Do go on?
Try to think of the actor's name right now, and it's
David Vincent.
David Vincent. David Vincent's a fine actor. He really is, and he does a good job playing Gilgamesh. But you need to make Gilgamesh talk in a way that is, this man is eternally suns out, cock out. Not guns out, just his dick is on the table. 24/7. Like, he does not, like, legitimately, the best definition of Gilgamesh as a character is his final, like, one of the final shots you see him sitting buck-ass naked on a pile of rubble.
As he watches the world burn.
A world burn. And sometimes I just didn't feel that sexual magnetism from him. Which is weird because Gilgamesh is just this great seducer slime ball. And that aspect was just kind of missing from me. And it's just like, there are some scenes where he really needed to punch it up and meet Crispin's energy level. Like, where they're talking about after Assassin is actually killed off. About how if this is why you, in Holy Grail Wars, masters get killed. Because if a master is waiting and another master dies, but that servant wants to remain, they can just latch on to a new master. And that's obviously him planting the seed for, hey, you should kill Tokiomi and take me as your servant. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And it just felt like he was reading it Shakespearean, but he wasn't putting enough oomph into it. Other than that, I think it's a really good performance. It was just kind of letting down in the sexual charisma part.
What you're saying is, it was drier than Rider's Ionian Hitairoi in regards to the sex appeal.
I mean, Gilgamesh as a character wouldn't, like, even aesthetically, he's actually not that pretty to me. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I think Iskandar is better looking than Gil.
Ooh, but I agree, but still. Yeah, look.
Gilgamesh just doesn't do it for me.
Anyway,
go on. I say that as I now pass this over to my boyfriend.
Yeah, it's okay.
Who thankfully puts up with me openly confessing about my love of hot anime men and women.
All right. It's actually kind of interesting that you bring up Gilgamesh's lack of like sexual charisma, because that's actually kind of something I like about the performance, because like all this bravado and he's still kind of an empty shell. Like he's building himself up, but ultimately like there's not a lot to him, and like that's actually something I really appreciate. And Crispin Freeman, though, like, yeah, that's, like his sort of evil awakening is just the best, where he stabs, what's his name in the back?
I listened,
Tokiomi?
Tokiomi.
Okay, where he stabs Tokiomi in the back. Like, that was just so good. And, like, and especially...
I never bought that plane ticket.
And especially toward the end with his final confrontation with Kirei, like, that was also really good. And, like, Gilgamesh basically, like, at the end, like, yeah, hey, you're stuck with me for life, buddy. Because the Holy Grail fucked him up. And it's just, like, yeah. This is, I really like these two. I do admit that there is a little something missing from Gilgamesh, but to me, like, the lack of sexual charisma actually builds a little bit toward the character, but, like, there is a little something else, like, some other form of bravado that I can't put my finger on is missing, but it's not there. So, yeah. Like, I actually like these two more than I thought I would.
Okay, so I guess it's my turn then. Okay, so like Liam O'Brien, Crispin Freeman is one of my favorite voice actors, and there's such a natural sense of presence to his voice that I can be entertained just hearing the man read a phone book, or the Bible, apparently. However, aside from liking content from Naruto and whatnot, a lot of his most iconic roles are a lot more, like, bombastic, so it was interesting hearing him play a character, like, who was a lot more stoic, like Kirei kind of was. And when we first meet Kirei, he's pretty much basically an empty shell, and he puts on this air of faith because, well, that's like the role he has to play. But of course, through Gilgamesh's influence, he breaks out of that empty shell and grows into a full-fledged villain, finding joy in the torment of others. It's certainly not typical character development, but Crispin Freeman handles that transition very well. And as Kirei becomes more emotional, so does Crispin's performance. And when Kirei, finally snaps in the last episode and just shows how truly insane he is, Crispin Freeman just sells his newfound depravity really well, while also keeping the ham, just reserved enough to still feel in character for Kirei, and I really dug that. And as for David Ernest, I'll be pretty honest. Back when I first watched this up, I honestly kind of hated this performance. I hated it so much, in fact, that for a while I was actually kind of annoyed whenever I saw people, just blindly singing the praises of this man, as opposed to, say, Tucker and Bunny, since they both kind of came out around the same time period, and I'm a little bit of a bigger fan of that one. Having said it, rewatching the dub for this episode, I actually found a lot of newfound appreciation for the performance, and I kind of grew to like it, for the most part. So the biggest problem I had with David's performance the first time I watched it is that it's kind of lacking an edge to me. When it comes to being a commanding presence, as opposed to, charisma, like you guys were saying. Yeah, so for me, it was, mostly lacking in, authoritative edge, where he really feels like an authority figure. Especially during Gilgamesh's intro.
That's probably what I was thinking of, truth be told.
Yeah. Yeah, especially during Gilgamesh's introduction, and, since I was really big on Tomokazu Seki's performance in the Japanese version, that first impression really kind of soured me on David's performance. But while I found him kind of lacking in intimidation, I'm gonna disagree with Megan in that I actually thought he gave off a sense of natural charisma pretty well. Mostly in the purposes of using it for, seducing Kirei and whatnot. And I feel like... I
just didn't get it.
Yeah, because, I don't know, for me, for me, all of David's best moments were just those scenes where he was subtly manipulating Kirei onto that path of darkness.
Oh, no, it's a good performance. I just don't see I don't sense it.
I guess that's fair. I'll just say that's kind of, where it worked for me the best. But anyway, with Waver and Ryder, I feel like Crispin Freeman and David Ernest are honestly at their best when they're just playing off of each other. And the great chemistry between these characters kind of helps to elevate their performances a bit. And you can easily see what draws Gilgamesh and Kirei and vice versa. Story-wise, it's a bit of a downer since these two honestly never get any kind of comeuppance for their evil deeds.
No, not in this series!
Not in this series, and they quite literally ride off into the sunset, but hey, this is a prequel. And more importantly, it's a Genro Buchi show, so unless you're a villain or, Waver and Ryder, you're not really going to walk away happy here.
By the way, can I literally read a conversation at one point that I had when I got to the end of the show? I was like, show Gilgamesh's dick, you cowards. Okay, Kirei and Gilgamesh, just hate fuck already. To which Jet replied, don't be rude, Megan, they're clearly very committed to each other.
Alright, and with that, it is time to get to our final pair of the evening.
And if you've made it this far in the episode, I'm so sorry.
We're all going to
hell.
hell.
At the 3-hour mark.
You're going to hell.
Your code in the comments is Excalibur.
Yeah.
No, your code in the comment is Viagra.
No. You know what? Type in either or. I don't care, but I'll be very disappointed if you type one.
Okay.
Disappoint Andrew
They call me
2018.
Dr. Worm in the comments.
Okay.
Okay, that one's good.
Okay.
Alright, so we have our main leads, Kiritsugu Emiya, and the saber of the story, Artoria Pendragon. Kiritsugu is a hitman known as the Mage Killer who targets magic users for a living. And despite his violent work, his ultimate desire for the Holy Grail is to bring about world peace. And as for Saber, strap in, kids, because this one's going to be a doozy. Okay, so Saber is based off of the legend of King Arthur, obviously. The original King Arthur was born as the heir to the throne of Britain, but due to the current unrest going on at the time, he was hidden away by the mage Merlin, and his true identity was kept secret. When Arthur's father died, Merlin used his magic to seal a sword in a stone, and that said, "Whosoever shall lift this sword shall become king." Many tried, but only Arthur was managed to be successful, and thus he was made king. As king, he built a base in Camelot and led his people in fighting back the Saxons who were invading the country. His most trusted knights were known as the Knights of the Round Table, and they did a variety of deeds, from saving damsels to fighting giant monsters, as well as searching for the Holy Grail, which they believed could cure all sickness in the world. Unfortunately, a civil war eventually broke out, and both Arthur and his nephew Mordred were fatally wounded. Arthur's body was sent to the island of Babylon, where he was healed by 3 maidens and was never seen again. And the story of King Arthur in Fate lore goes pretty differently. In fact, if I were to actually try going over the whole thing, we would quite literally be here for another hour. So I'm just going to do the highlights.
The TLDR could probably just be, guess what? Arthur's a girl.
Yeah. So
TLDR, this isn't a sausage fest, there's a clam bake!
Yeah. So like in the original tale, Artoria Pendragon was born as the legitimate heir to the throne, but because she was born as a woman instead of a man, the king could not name her his successor, and she was sent away with Merlin to be raised as an ordinary knight. Merlin, however, still believed that she was destined to rule, and when it came time to pull the sword from the stone, Merlin gave her a warning that if she became king, she would cease to be human. Artoria still felt it was her duty anyway, and pulled the sword, becoming king, and apparently ceasing to age. She led her people through many battles alongside the Knights of the Round Table, and ruled while concealing her true gender. However, the more perfectly she ruled, the more everyone around her began to feel she didn't understand human emotions. This came back to bite her when civil war broke out, and she was mortally wounded by her estranged son Mordred. I'm not going into that. And she was taken to the Isle of Avalon, where she threw away her sword Excalibur, and felt nothing but regret in her dying moments about how she ruled as a king. Before her last breath, she wished that in exchange for becoming a heroic spirit, she could have another chance to seek out the Grail and save her country.
All right.
And, yeah, I am genuinely amazed I was able to keep it that short.
I'm impressed. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, anyway, playing Saber, we have Kyrie Walgren, who you would know for such roles as Blue Rose and Tiger and Buddy, Saya and Diva in Blood Plus,
Haha!
Anemone in Eureka 7, and Haruto Haruhara in Fully Fully. Kiritsugu Emiya is played by one Matthew Mercer, whose other work includes Levi from Attack on Titan, Leorio from Hunter x Hunter 2011, Trafgar Law in One Piece, and Jotaro Kujo from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Status Crusaders. Also, I want to give a brief shout out to Kirk Thornton, who played Kiritsugu's father in his backstory, because Kirk Thornton was actually the original voice of Kiritsugu in the 2016 version of Fate Stay Night.
Look, if we're gonna give a shout out, we should also give a shout out to young Kiritsugu Emiya, played by Marianne Miller.
Yes.
Who was fan-fucking-tastic.
Oh, she was great, yeah.
Thumbs up.
Yes, it was.
Fuck, how do I start? Okay. So let's start Saber. Saber is noble. She is strong of will. She holds herself high with authority and strength and honor. And then when you see the doubt in both her criticism from Ryder as well as the revelation of what her leadership may truly have done to drive Lancelot insane, you see her vulnerability, her doubts, and her fears, and you see all these different sides of Saber. But Saber herself is still really cool, really strong, really interesting, and goddammit, she looks good in the suit. I like her Fate Stay Night attire too, but she looks really cool in the suit. And like I said, I really do like the contrast between the ladies in suit and the lady in white, who is Iris Veal. Also, I really do love her relationship with Irisville. Almost much so that I would not mind if she helped prepare a modder transfer with her, if you will, so to speak.
That's someone else's job in this franchise.
Yep, more on that later. Anyways, but no, I really think Kari does a fantastic job bringing Saber to life and making her a believable, noble, powerful knight, but also somebody who who is full of fears and doubts about how they ruled and like whether they did the right thing or not, especially when it came to Lancelot. And I thought it was really interesting. Now, let's talk about the failed hero of justice, Kiritsugu Emiya. Holy shit, Matthew Mercer. I forgot how much I really liked Matthew Mercer as Kiritsugu. And god damn it, because like most of this, he's very cold and dead-eyed, but when he shows his fears, you see him break on the boat. You see him crying, the face of utter defeat after he is broken, after his ideology is challenged and crushed, after he is forced to basically have an image of his wife and child as he is forced to kill them, knowing that he is being manipulated by the Grail. All of this energy, just the way he carries himself as this cold, calculating hitman, but when you see the facades of the world and his ideals crumble before him, you see him break and tremble, and just him dying with so much regret. Kiritsugu is such a tragic, heroic figure, and it's fascinating, and I think Matthew Mercer is really, really perfect for the kind of character that Kiritsugu Emiya was. And I was impressed. Alright. I've said my piece.
Oh gosh. So, I think that Kari Walgren as Saber was something I wasn't used to hearing her as. Because I am really used to her being, like, Diva and Saya in Blood Plus. Like, that was my introduction to Kari Walgren. And I loved her, and Kari Walgren is one of my favorite voice actresses of all time. Like, bar none. I love that woman. Mm-hmm. Her performance as Saber was so beautiful and noble and just heartbreakingly tragic when she cried, and I loved every second of it, and it's so brilliant and just tragic, like, as a lot of the show is. And it's so warm, though, in its tragedy. It's juxtaposed, it's the difference between somebody who cares too much and somebody who doesn't appear to care too much. And that's why she works off of Matthew Mercer's Kiritsugu so much, because Matthew Mercer appears as a man who is cold and heartless, but yet cares more about the world than anybody else, and he is willing to become, until the very end, was willing to become a bad guy to ensure that peace. A lot like his servant, oddly enough. I'm trying to find a way to work in its high noon joke, and I can't.
That's
just
right.
don't.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure already did that.
God.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jalen. Jalen.
Jalen.
I'm pretty sure it's Jalen.
Thank you, Jalen.
Jalen.
You
Thanks,
beautiful son
Jalen.
of a bitch. That episode just aired yesterday. Anyways.
It's just, God, Matthew Mercer is so fucking good in anime. And it sucks that he doesn't do a ton of it anymore.
He does a couple of them still, but
he does Attack on Titan and shit, but oh god, it's just the fuck when he's crying on the boat is so good, and when he talks about holding his child for the first time, where he compares her to the weight of a gun.
Yeah.
And you're just like, fuck, Mercer, twist the knife, why don't you, asshole?
it's like, it says so much that that's really all he's ever known before then.
And just, he goes out and, like, when Kiritsugu finally snaps after the Grail has burned Fuyuki. And he picks up Shiro Emiya. Izzy, what are you doing down there? Simba! Fire in Fuyuki! Shiro's down there! But no, just, they were both such beautiful performances, and I just... You're not as perfect as Lucian and, Jameson, but you're pretty a good second place.
Indeed. Rich?
Yeah, I kind of like how tragically both Kari Walgren and Matthew Mercer play their respective characters. Like, Saber Artoria is basically, she's stoic and she tries to be strong on the outside, but deep down she is brash and childish as hell. And during the meeting of kings, she gets totally called out for it, and she gets mad that she can't defend herself, and that was one of my favorite scenes for her.
It's the idea that it reminds me of something from March Comes in Like a Lion, where it's like, it's so hard to hear, but why does she want to hear it?
Yeah. And Matthew Mercer, the boat and holding his child for the first time got to me, but also the riddle.
When you have to choose,
yeah.
There's a boat with 200 people and a boat with 300 people. And that's him talking to himself. That's the Grail using his voice.
Yeah, that shit's creepy,
Oh,
too!
that's so creepy.
Like,
and
that
the fucked
was
up
magnificent.
And the fucked up part is that in the end, he chooses the 300 people. And in the end, the reality is he only saves 200.
Yeah, because they keep dividing the boat up.
Yeah, and the worst part is when the Grail tells him, we already know how to save the world. We're just going to do what you've been doing all along. And it's like, oh, man.
We're just gonna kill half of humanity, basically.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so fucked. We're gonna Thanos this bitch.
Like, that moral dilemma was just... It was hard to watch, but it was so good.
Speaking of hard to watch, remember when he fucking shoots the image of Ilya?
Oh yeah, he like straight up gets like no mercy.
No, it's like, the thing is, it was the right thing to do in his mind, is that he was going to be trapped by the Grail. But it's such a hard thing to watch. And the voice of his probably dead wife, who we will never see again, the last thing he sees of the image of his wife is cursing him.
I curse you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Also B, shout out to the I don't want to say who. Okay, I kind of spoiled who played Sakura, so I don't want to spoil who plays Iris, the daughter. Shout out to the actress who plays the daughter when she's talking about having the nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like,
Oof.
I honestly can't wait to dive into Unlimited Blade Works.
Which, believe me, we spent this long at Fate Zero. We're gonna cover Unlimited Blade Works, don't worry.
Like,
Hopefully with less child murder.
Hopefully, but not guaranteed.
yeah.
Please let there be less child murder.
But I like how, on the outside, they play stoic roles, but ultimately the both of them are just so broken inside that they need each other in order to be complete, and it's just really good. And I'm gonna pass it on to Jet, because like, we're going way over time.
Okay, so I'll start with Kari Walgren, since I don't have much to say other than she's great. Kari Walgren is honestly one of the best voice actresses in the industry, period, and she's handled a very wide variety of character types with total grace. As far as anime was concerned, though, this was the first time I had ever seen her play, like, the role of, nobility in a sense. But she really nailed it. She really gives off the sense of dignity that makes it so easy to understand why Saber was very respected throughout history as both the king and the knight. And when that sense of pride gets threatened, Kairi is really able to convey those frustrations very well without losing that air of nobility that makes Saber so interesting. But good as she was in that aspect, though, the scene that of course really sold me was that moment where Saber discovers Berserker with Lancelot. And the way she broke from that revelation, really shook me, and it just reminded me of how great an actress Kairi is. as for Matt Mercer, the reason I had brought up Kirk Thornton earlier was that back when the show was first coming out, he was actually who I wanted to play Kiritsugu since I was like more familiar with Kirk Thornton, and and I had watched the Japanese version of Fate Zero, and I knew Kirk Thornton's voice was about as deep as Rika Kamiyo's was, and Rika Kamiyo was who played him in Japanese. So when it first came out that Matt Mercer was playing him, I wasn't really sure how to feel because I wasn't very familiar with Matt Mercer back then. And his take on Kiritsugu actually sounded a lot younger than either of the others. So when it actually came time to listen to that performance, though, I was very impressed. He definitely gets across that very machine-like efficiency that makes up Kiritsugu's outward personality, while also sounding equally believable during the few moments we get to see him lighten up a bit and be more vulnerable, like when he's playing with his daughter. I thought that seemed really cute. Or like those moments where he confides in Irisville. But for as robotic as the front as he puts up, though, Kiritsugu, of course, is a very troubled individual beneath the surface, and Matt Mercer gets across that aspect very well, too. Pretty much goes without saying that scene on the boat where where he had, lots of rocket launcher was probably the most emotive he ever had to be. And while that whole outburst only lasted, actually just a few seconds, pretty much every ounce of Kiritsugu's agony just really came out in that moment. And just that feeling of despair with the decision he had to make it came across beautifully. And it more or less sold me on Matt Mercer as an actor. And it's kind of interesting looking back that, he's been around for a long while.
He was the original Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil 4. He's been around for, a decade and a half.
He's been around for a while, but, as far as, anime was concerned, this was, more or less the role that got him on the map, and it's interesting to think about, but it's also not hard to see why, because he was really good at it. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, we can move on to final thoughts.
We can move to...
Because it's getting...
Yep.
Yeah, it's getting really
It's
late.
getting really late. I'll make my final thoughts really quick. Revisiting the show has been really interesting because I watched it a few years ago. I think in my freshman year of college, actually. And it's really interesting now that I have more of an understanding about Fate lore. Now, and also an understanding of what came before and after this. I have a much clearer understanding of how this is from the beginning, the end. It's tragedy. There's so many complex, deep characters, so many terrible, awful people who are also multifaceted and really interesting. There's some great character moments. I love Wyvern Rider. I love some of the fascinating stories and the struggles they tell. I actually there's a couple of people in this dub that are just okay or decent, but there's a lot of really strong standout performances that really you could see why this was such a dub that people held in such high regards. It's not perfect, there's a couple of things here and there, but for the most part, 6 years later, this still holds up really nicely, and I really enjoyed revisiting it.
Okay, Megan?
Oh, God. As somebody who had never seen the show before this point, I want to punch all these guys because I actually was legitimately upset. A lot of material visually in the show did upset me. I make a lot of, jokes about it, but guys, I do not like watching little kids get killed on screen. That's a fucking no for me. That's just a no. I legitimately had no idea. I knew Gitarai was a caster, but I didn't know which series he was in, and I didn't know that they were going to go that far with you.
Yeah,
that being said,
that's
the dub...
on us, and I apologize for not bringing any of that up to you.
It's fine. You can just buy me plushies, honey. That being said, I think this dub is fantastic. There's a couple of nitpicky things that I would say about this, but honestly, I had a great time watching it. This is probably one of the best anime I've actually ever watched. It was a great tragedy anime, and the dub really holds up 6 years later.
Okay, Bruce?
Yeah, so, as the guy who actually spent $300 to own the series on Blu-ray...
Bless your dumb, naive heart.
This is a really good experience, not just when I first bought it or the time or two I watched it since, but revisiting it now for for Dub Talk and all that, and like talking about things and discovering new parts of this that I never realized with you guys. Like this is a really cool experience. Like every time you watch it, the picture gets a little clearer, and it's just a really great show, and the dub just adds an element to this that it just I'm having trouble finding the words, but like the dub has a lot of complicated moving parts, and they move for the most part in harmony, and other than a few info dumpy moments at the beginning and middle of the show, like everything just kind of works. And it's probably become one of my favorite shows. And the dub is spectacular. So I will pass it on to Jet, because that's really all I have to say.
Okay. So while I had actually seen most of the deep version of Fate back in the day because I was weird, Fate Zero was more or less the show that sold me on Fate as a franchise, even if part of me kind of feels the sea for that because the rest of it hasn't quite matched up, but that's a whole other story there. Anyway, this is a very dark show and, like, very unforgiving in terms of execution, but it's also extremely compelling and composed of a cast of characters that are equal parts fascinating and cruel. Well, that's not a word that's kind of more like fascinating and cool. The dub certainly played a part in helping me to revisit the show every now and again. And, like I said before, I think the later Fate dubs are a little bit stronger. This was certainly a good place to start breathing new life into the franchise, and Tony Oliver and all the actors involved played a really big part in making that happen. It's not like a totally perfect dub, and some parts of the ensemble are definitely better than others, but it all comes together to make for a very memorable experience, and it's very easy to understand why this dub is so celebrated all these years later. And with that, we're basically done, so is there anything you guys want to plug real quick?
I am so sorry this is like a 3.5 hour
It's
episode.
probably only like 3:10 or something like that, but at the very least exceeding 3 hours.
There's like a good 20-minute chunk of just me laughing.
If you want to find me, I'm on Twitter at MangaMan9000. You can find me on there. I do Dub Talk, as you might be aware, and I'm also on another podcast for Surreal Resolution, Podcast O&A, alongside my buddy Jet here.
Okay, Bruce?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Roots of Justice, where I mainly just, like, retweet cute animal pics and, like, sometimes talk anime stuff. Like, I show up on the Funimation Discord and forums every now and again. I'm actually starting to make moves on that blog of mine, so hopefully, like, updates will be coming in the near future. So,
Cool.
Cool. Megan?
You can follow me at QueenEra2, where I post pictures of my wonderful daughter Shinya, and do a bunch of other crazy whining and bullshit, and occasionally flirt with Brutes over here. You can also hang out with me on the Funimation Discord, Funimation forums, yada yada yada.
Okay, and as for me, you can follow me on Twitter at DefineNega, where I will usually be talking about anime or cartoons or some nonsense. You can also find me on a fandom post where I occasionally do anime reviews. This season I'm doing My Hero Academia Season 3. I also have my own blog, Animation Infinity, where I sometimes do reviews and stuff. Like Andrew was saying, you can also occasionally find me on Podcast OA. And, yeah, that's me.
As for us, we are the Dub Talk Podcast. You can find us on YouTube at Dub Talk Podcast. So if you want, you like, comment, subscribe. As well as you can also find us on Twitter, Twitch, Tumblr, and Instagram.
and don't forget to ring the notification bell down below. Brr, 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 brr.
Thank you.
If you don't, every time you don't ring the notification bell, we kill one of Gigi's body pillows. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, I thought that was gonna turn into a caster joke for a second. I was getting very concerned.
No, oh god, no! I want to do that. Every time you don't ring a bell, we make Hardy look at Cloud Aerith ship
Ah.
pictures. It's very sad.
That's
life.
mean.
Yeah, you guys
Also-
want to go do that.
And he'll never sit through all of this, so he'll never
Also,
hear
by
that.
the way, if you would like to watch the dub of Fate Zero, you can find that over on Netflix and or Crunchyroll.
Yes, you,
Yep.
yes, you can.
I'm ready to call it a night,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, yeah, and with that, we're done.
All right.
Thank you for sticking around this long. You're probably crazy to have done that, but thank you
Let's
nonetheless.
see.
Your endurance is rewarded.
Good night, everybody. Otaku on, my friends, and what's a good Fate thing to end this off on?
Excalibur!
崩れ落ちる命は足りないまま